Right, can I call the meeting to order?
She was good, but.
Yeah.
Will the township clerk please read the statement?
Yes. Adequate notice of this regular meeting was provided to the public and the press on January 6, 2023, and was posted at the municipal building in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-7.
Okay, can you join me please to salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember DeStacy.
Here.
Councilmember Rizzuto.
Here.
Councilmember Sparta.
Present.
Councilmember Tadrick.
Here.
Council President Bushieri.
Here. We're gonna have just a quick change to our agenda, just so our chief can get back out in case there's some bad weather later. We're just gonna bump up his comments about traffic controls for street and highway construction and maintenance operations. We'll do that right now. Chief, if you're-
Council President, mind if I sit over there?
Wherever you're comfortable.
If you get home, they can. Hold spot.
You gotta.
So-
There then.
Yeah.
Can they hear me from here?
They got you, they
Are
got
the
you.
mics on over there, Marcy?
Dan, you just have to if you pick it up and press the little button, move it over.
If you want to get over here, Dan.
That's okay.
If it's red, it's on
Right, it's on.
the other side, Dan.
It's on.
Okay.
Okay. So there was some questions due to a newspaper article and some social media about our policy regarding work and traffic regulations. So I asked the police chief to just kind of talk about that ordinance so we understood, what our guidelines and what our ordinance was in Vernon. So
Sure.
take it from there.
Thank you. So I'll introduce myself for those of you at home that don't know me. I'm Dan Young. I'm the police chief in Vernon. I took over as the police chief in 2019. So this particular ordinance actually came into effect in 2017. But I was part of the command staff when it actually first came into play. Before we get into it, I just want to first thank the community members that reached out to me. I know there was some conversations on social media about it. So I certainly appreciate the community reaching out to me about that, and also to the council members that reach out to me also. I do my best to keep everybody as informed as possible when I get inquiries and questions, but I personally don't go on and start interacting with the public on social media. This is just not a practice that I do. So just to jump right into it, the specific issue that I think that I probably should just address right off the bat, the information that was circulating and that it's required to hire police officers for all utility work or for contractors working on a road in Vernon, and that's just not true. That's simply not true. So to get into it, there was some reasoning behind the ordinance, why this was adopted, and that's because we were pretty plagued with some contractors that were not working very well in our town. They were just showing up with no communication to us. We had closed roads, detours. We had all sorts of things that were happening to us, and we were realizing it was a quality of life issue for our residents. So everybody that lives in Vernon knows we basically have a lot of main corridors that run north and south, right from Canister Road, the 515 to 94 to 517 to 565. And then we have some main connecting roads, the arteries that connect them together. So if, for example, one of the incidents that I could speak to that before this happened is we had a tree company come in. They rented a crane. They actually shut down Canister Road, and they were taking a tree down on Canister Road at a private residence. There was no notification to us. We have all of our residents trying to get to work, and now we find out that Canister Road's closed. So what's your detour around Canister Road? There's no quick fix for that. So those are some of the things that we were dealing with. So what we did was we tasked our traffic safety officer. He is recognized by Kane University as a traffic safety specialist, and he's a member of the New Jersey State Traffic Safety Officers Association. He's actually on their executive board. So back in 17, we had tasked him with, this is what's happening here. Are you seeing this happen around the state anywhere else? Can you ask some of your partners and your colleagues down there? Come back to us with some suggestions on what these other municipalities are doing. And they were passing ordinances to help regulate these things. So the purpose of the ordinance is not to bar contractors from working in town, not at all. Really, it's to open the door of communication to us. One, to make sure we have safe work zones. Two, to make sure that we can do adequate notification to our community. Especially if we're going to have some bigger road projects, it's been highly successful with some of our paving and milling companies that come in that are going to, be on our roadways for a couple of weeks, milling up and paving. If we didn't have pre-construction meetings and have an idea of, what times they're going to be working, how it's going to affect us, that causes a lot of problems. It causes problems for our communication with our emergency services. You close down or there's a major delay on one of our large artery roads and the fire department needs to get to another side of town, we need to be able to relay that to them to let them know that they're having, these sort of possible delays or closures. Also with the school bus transportation company coordinator over in the Board of Education, we have had an awesome working relationship with the transportation coordinator for many years. Everything from road jobs to any sort of traffic job or accidents, things that are occurring, we just communicate that instantly to them. So when we're able to do some of these pre-construction meetings, we're able to call over to the Board of Ed because they're compounding, right? So if there's a delay for the high school buses, they're the same buses that do middle school and elementary school. So it's just going to compound right through. So by the time you get all the way to elementary school, you could be pretty late getting to school if you're having some specific closures that they weren't aware of. So that's kind of the reasoning behind why this ordinance was formed, is because of the issues that we were having with the lack of communication. So with this actual ordinance, several things were adopted. Only one component of the entire ordinance relates to the hiring of police officers. The other components adopts the standards. It establishes pre-construction meetings, which, as I mentioned, they're critical. Pre-construction meetings can be pretty quick and pretty easy, or they can be more in depth. It just depends on the nature of the work that's happening that the contractor is going to do. It gives us the ability to have emergency contact numbers for the contractor themselves. So if you encounter a specific issue and there's no police officers working that specific job, we're able to call the contractor immediately, the emergency contacts we have, and relay what problems we're having. It also addresses a contractor's inability to just close roads or have lane closings and detours without prior approval by me or my designee. And I think that's really integral. I mean, like I mentioned, the one for Canistee Road, but put that on any road in Vernon Township. You're closing one of our roads and we don't have any knowledge of it. You're really inconveniencing the residents and causing some of these problems. So that was the whole premise why this was put into place. And the specific wording, I think that was kind of taken out of context. And it may just been the understanding of the contractor from his experience. So it specifically says, I just wanted to read it. Any person, entity, contractor, subcontractor, or utility wishing to conduct work on, under, or above any roadway within Vernon Township, which is anticipated to take longer than 2 hours, shall be required to hire off-duty Vernon Township police officers when determined by the Vernon Township Chief of Police or his designee to be necessary to ensure compliance with the MUTCD, which is the Manual Uniform for Traffic Control Devices, as well as to safely control traffic through the work zone. So it's not just they have to hire him, it's when it's determined by me or my designee. So really what happens is we say, okay, you're going to come into work, you're going to do this large construction job or contracting job. You work with our traffic safety officer through a pre-construction meeting to establish the parameters of what the actual construction job is. Give us some details on it. You may or may not have to hire a police officer. It really depends on the location. If you're going to be working in our lake communities on the back roads, it's highly unlikely you're ever going to have to hire a police officer. I mean, it's just unnecessary. It would be an unnecessary expense to the contractor, and it's just not business friendly. But if it's going to be a position where one of the examples that I had used was like our Lake Panorama section of town. It has one main entrance in and out of Lake Panorama. And there's a lot of residents and homes in there. So if the contractor is going to close a portion of the entrance to Lake Panorama, well, we need to have community notification. We need to make those residents aware. We need to make adjustments for busing. And really, this is a one-size-fits-all approach for this specific ordinance. That's kind of how we had to draft it. So it could be, hey, these contractors are pretty much just closing one lane. They're doing pole to pole. It's not that big of an inconvenience. Well, we'll work with them in the pre-construction meeting to evaluate really what we need to do with that. As opposed to, hey, they're putting a piece of drainage in across Lake Panorama and it's going to shut the road down for several hours. Just completely different types of jobs, but that's why we have those pre-construction meetings like I was mentioning. That's generally the ins and arounds of the actual ordinance itself. To just go over some specifics, I mean, if they're going to be working in, say, intersection with a traffic light, or maybe there's curve, S turns in the roadway, like on 517, or some hill crests, some blind sections of road, that may be something that we determine that you might have to hire a cop for. And I think I'd like to add, because I don't want to drag on too much more, but there's plenty of times that we'll tell a contractor, you don't have to hire a police officer for this. Everything you presented to us in the pre-construction meeting is absolutely adequate. Have at it. We have your contact numbers. If we have any problems, we'll reach out. We'll do our community notifications. There's times they come back and they say, you know what? We don't want to have any issues with any residents. We don't want to have any problems. We're going to hire you anyway, just so we have you on scene. And that's fantastic too. So I think that just speaks to some of the quality of my officers if they're reaching out and they're asking us to hire, even when they don't have to hire us. So it kind of in closing, what I'd like to add is this particular ordinance just provides us with the necessary tools that we need to enforce the standards that we've set for Vernon Township. To be able to have adequate time to maybe put out message boards. If you're going to be working in the entire Pleasant Valley Lake community for 3 or 4 weeks doing a job up there, well, happily, I'll deploy my message board, put it out there, let the residents know, hey, you're going to see this contractor in here every day for the next month between these dates. We just did that for actually the paving job that happened last year up in PBL. Residents knew all this because we push out as much information as possible. Same thing with our Facebook. So on social media, we'll blow it out. Hey, this traffic job's coming in 2 weeks. Just be prepared. Start making your alternate plans now, so we don't have those incidents where all of a sudden Canisteo Road's closed. And if you live in Isle Lakes and Canisteo Road's closed, that is causing you a major inconvenience. So that's kind of where this all came from. And that's pretty much all I have. Does anybody have any specific questions for me?
I got a quick question, Chief.
Yeah.
In your experience, have you had any companies that come with their own road security,
Security or their own flaggers
their own
and
flaggers and stuff like that?
oh, yeah. Yeah.
Is that pretty normal? And have there a problem with anybody like that?
No, very rarely. Very rarely. I mean, of all the times since 2017 up until recently, this was the first issue I've ever even heard with somebody having with us. So, and again, my phone's always on, my door's always open. It shows in the ordinance that you can bring it to my attention if there's a problem you have a problem with it. And I would like to comment that some information was released via some residents that had specifically reached out to me, and I had given them some answers, and that particular contractor did reach out to me this afternoon. So I just saw that on my email when I got in. So I will be reaching out to him tomorrow.
Thanks,
Anybody
Chief.
else have a question? Anybody else?
As always, thank you very much
Yes,
for your
thank you.
That was
for your very thorough email that explained everything.
very
Oh.
thorough.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Chief.
1 to 3 inches, whatever it is.
Hopefully it's one.
All right. Good night, guys.
Thank you. Thanks. All right, so we will go back to our agenda to public comments. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. This portion of public comments is for current agenda items. If you wish to speak, please just state your name only and please indicate which agenda item you'll be addressing. And you can come up to the microphone. May I have a motion to open the floor to public comment?
I'll make that motion.
Ms. Distassi, may I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Tadrick. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay, the floor is open to public comment.
Hi, I'm Peter Knight. Good evening. There's 2 items I like to address, but first I'd like to thank the chief for really an outstanding explanation of the issue. And as a resident, I certainly appreciate understanding, and I'm thankful that our police are that much involved with our safety. The first item is resolution 2391. This is community support for paving of town center trail for accessibility to seniors and individuals with disability. I read the resolution and I'm not quite sure whether this is proposing for new funding for surfacing that trail. And if it is, I'd like to know tonight just how much of this county funding that could be expected to offset the cost of that project. Also, if you could share with us what the projected cost of that project is. I can tell you as a senior, barely, and an individual who's right now handicapped, I have no interest in hiking up that trail, whether it's paved, gravel or anything else. I'm certainly not biking, and I think many other handicapped people would have no purpose of hiking up that. There was an escalator or moving sidewalk. So please, if you could share with us some of those details. The other is ordinance 23-06. My memory serves me, this issue was discussed the one or two council meetings before. I'm not sure by reading the ordinance whether these are two new positions or what my memory serves me is that this is simply a change in titles. My understanding also is that these change of titles would not represent an increase in cost to us. So if you could, would you please address that? Now I'll just go back. If the cost, I don't usually like to mix apples with oranges, but here I go. Whatever money is required beyond whatever might be available for grants or outside funding for that trail, I'd rather see if it's at all possible for the town to contribute $35,000 to the BOE so that our children can have their late buses. Late buses for sports and club activities is crucial. And one of the things that Vernon does best is conducting their after-school programs. Our athletes, our debate teams, et cetera, we do extraordinarily well. And now this is going to cause a problem. And I don't know if that's possible, but if it is, I would suggest that that would be a better application of township money. Thank you.
Thank you. Public? Anyone in person? Anyone virtually, Marcy?
I don't have any other hands up.
No hands are raised?
There's one.
Wait, I'm sorry.
This Bob.
Jessica Palladini.
Okay. Ms. Palladini?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. May I ask who Marilyn Davis is?
Yes, she is from, I'm gonna say Optimum. Is that correct, Marilyn? Yes,
Okay.
for the ordinance.
Okay. Yes, I should have remembered. I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay.
was just wondering. Okay, two things. I see that you have the ad hoc committee on the agenda for a charter study. I'd like to know when and where that was advertised for volunteers.
Okay,
I'm waiting.
we can address, do you have other questions that you want to talk about?
I
can.
do have other questions, but
Okay.
why can't you answer that question?
Sure, Marcy, we advertised that,
That was on the website.
it was on the website.
As soon as the resolution was passed.
Did we pass that resolution in November?
It was in early December, we had
Early
advertised.
I
December.
have the resolution.
Okay, yep, so that would have been early December.
The resolution was passed several months ago, and the resolution was to form a committee, but there was no advertising that I have seen anywhere, not even on the website.
It
Or
it was posted on the website.
It's on the website. For
When?
several weeks, actually.
I never saw it, and I'm on that website almost every day. I would ask that you table this and advertise for it, not just on your website, because there are many people who don't even have internet. A lot of senior citizens don't go on the website. I certainly never saw it, and I'm on the website all the time. I think rather than to select people tonight and give it to the same few people who are appointed to everything, I personally think Tony Chili is a great candidate for that committee. She has proven herself over and over several times, but I would like to see you table that and actually advertise it so that we could get Joe Q Public and other interested people. I myself am not interested, so I'm not saying it for self-interest, but I really don't think it's right that you pick people tonight and once again select the same few people who have been appointed to absolutely everything in recent weeks and months. The only other thing I want to address is the town center trail. From what I understand from multiple people and photographs, the trail is in deplorable condition right now, and it's barely even 2 months old. We were told on so many occasions that this trail, or any trail, would have no maintenance costs, even though most of us knew that not to be true. So we have a 2-month-old trail that cost us $700,000. And the promise from several council members were not one more dime. And I personally object to the fact that they are already looking to use more taxpayer money to pave it. I don't care where it comes from, state taxpayer money, county taxpayer money, local taxpayer money. I think that's an insult and a slap in the face to already be considering paving that trail. And I also want to say lastly, that to think that that trail with that steep grade that is probably akin to Breakneck or Route 515, to think that that could possibly be conducive for ADA or senior citizens is really just nonsense. I ask you to please stop the insanity. We had that $700,000 trail shoved down our throats. Please do not add insult to injury. Those are my comments. Thank you for taking them.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that want to comment?
I have George
Nakonaro?
Conroe.
Okay. Mr. Nakonaro?
Good evening. Thank you for taking the time. I'm here. I was not going to address initially, but I'm here to talk about Resolution 22-286 for the ad hoc committee. I will have to concur with the previous speaker. I've not seen any advertisement. I was potentially interested in volunteering for this committee. However, I did not see it. Aside from the fact that I believe that this is a waste of taxpayer money to have this ad hoc committee versus actually fixing the government. The minimum that could have been done is to properly advertise this. So that way the public could go and submit their intent to volunteer. I would have submitted my intent to volunteer for this committee had I known that you were soliciting for volunteers. So I concur with the previous speaker. It should be tabled. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other members of the public that wish to speak? And also online, Marcy?
I don't have any other. Oh, I do.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay, don't be sorry, it's fine.
Stephanie Stalingo.
Yes, hi, how are you? I'm Stephanie Salingo. And I just wanted to call in to say that I am in support of the ordinance for to apply for the grant, the paving, as well as the water. Sorry, I'm looking for the ordinance number right now.
Resolution for the
Yes.
2391 is what you mean. Yeah.
2391 and 2392. I am in support of both of those. And I would like to also say that the ad hoc committee was advertised because I reposted it in my group in December of 2022.
Okay. Okay, is that, do you have any other comments, Ms. Galingo?
Nope, that would be it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have Carl Contino.
Okay. Mr. Contino?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
I just wanted to state that I was aware of the creation of this ad hoc committee, and that when I applied for it, I did find out about it through my friend group and through social media. So there was discussion about this going around town, and I do think it was posted, although I think it could have been maybe posted in a more easily accessible location maybe, but notice was made and I was aware of it. I just wanted to state that because I was one of the people who put my name in. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I have Ann Larson.
Ms. Larson?
Good evening. In reference to the posting of that ad hoc committee, I would ask what post was it on? Because not everyone is a member of every posting. So even though it was on social media, if it was on closed groups, not everybody saw it. So I think in order to be fair to people, everyone should have the same opportunity. And if we're not all on the same pages, then those who are interested may not have seen Ms. Solingo's posting. So I'd like you also to table it until there are more applicants. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President, it was posted on our website.
On our website.
December 14th.
December 14th, okay. So I understand your comment, Ms. Larson. I'm just gonna reply quickly. If private citizens posted it on Facebook, that's their choice, but the council did not share it on Facebook. We simply posted it on our website and spoke about it at the meeting where we had the resolution. I just wanted to, I wasn't sure if you thought we were posting it on Facebook, but we didn't. We just posted it on our website. Is there any other members of the public?
I don't have any other hands up.
Okay, all right. Can I have a motion to close the floor to public comment?
Move.
Make that motion.
Okay, Mr. Patrick, and second by Ms. Dispassy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will move on to our discussion items. We already discussed the traffic controls. I also want to add one more item for discussion, the cannabis ordinance. We're going to pull that ordinance and we're not going to vote on that today. So that would be ordinance 2309 is going to be pulled, and we will just discuss different thoughts that different council members have about that ordinance. So our first discussion is the ad hoc charter study committee. So that was an ordinance that we discussed and passed December, I guess our first December meeting. Posted it on our website on December 14th. Do you know how long we posted that for, Marcy?
It was posted for a couple weeks.
Okay. And we did receive, did everyone receive the letters of interest from the community members that sent them in? Okay. So the discussion was that we would possibly, form the committee, have community members, and then 1 or 2 council members as part of that committee. Does the council want to discuss that or have any questions? I know I had originally said that I would be willing to be part of that committee, but now as council president, I don't have the time to do that. So I don't know if any other council member is interested in becoming part of that committee and discussing into that. No?
I don't have any desire.
I think though, one of the things that I am concerned about, I make no bones about it. We are a nonpartisan town. And I find it difficult to see that the head of the Democratic Party has applied and another member who wants to be either a member of the council or some other elected position is also a Democrat and is applying for that. And the individual who head of the Democratic Party has made known his position very well that he would like to have the township become a democratic town. Well, I can understand that.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily the point for this particular issue. The issue that I'm concerned about is the fact that the inability for us to have any type of continuity in terms of people involved with the government, coming out for the government. And if in fact, to change that particular posture, we find ourselves moving towards a partisan form of government, I think that becomes a great selling point for it. In my mind, the primary votes, the primary elections that take place act as somewhat of a filtering action for the people who are running, and we avoid just simply having a popularity contest. And more than that, I think it allows people to express their feelings regarding their beliefs, their values towards government, and what they value most, what they don't, and so forth and so on. And that, I think, is done by virtue of, espousing a particular party or a particular set of values. Doesn't necessarily have to be Republican or Democrat. It can also be independent, can also be libertarian or whatever. So that's my concern. And, honestly, as it becomes the responsibility of the council at the end of this procedure to hear the report from this ad hoc committee and vote. And if I find that there is no establishment of some type of partisan group, I simply won't vote for it. And I'm my point very, very clear. So, and by the way, the council will not provide any money for this.
Well, I agree. My intention, if there is to be after the ad hoc charter study committee and based on their findings, I would not support it if it was to remain nonpartisan. I agree with your points there, Mr. Rizzuto. But if there's no interest in a council member, if there's no interest in moving forward with this study, we don't have to, right? Josh?
You do not have to move forward with it if you don't want to.
In full disclosure, I moved it and I voted yes for it. My concern now is I'm not so much worried about Democrat, Republican. I'm more worried about people signing up to be on this committee who are running and using this as kind of a platform where they're running whatever position they are. I would now only vote for it if there was some way we could manage that process. Josh, can we do that? Can we say people that are currently running that we just won't pick them as a member, or is that discriminatory?
You have the power of appointment. I mean, any appointment is by nature discriminatory. It's a question of, how you want to use your power of appointment.
Okay. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay, well, I want to hear everyone's, Mr. Sparta.
The results of this, Josh, if I'm correct, it's non-binding, whatever they come up with, correct?
Correct.
And what would be the next steps moving forward if the council was so inclined to look at changing the form of government? What would be the next steps?
I mean, the next step with respect to resolution 22-286 is the individuals serving on the ad hoc committee need to be identified and appointed to serve on that committee. And that has not happened yet.
Following, Josh,
Yeah, I mean,
a referendum as the ultimate.
Oh, well, ultimately, what is the next step after the I mean, there's multiple next steps that have been addressed in a couple of memos to the council. And that's going to depend on what the ad hoc committee ultimately decides and what the council chooses to do based on the recommendations. Councilman Sparta, I'll forward to you tomorrow the previous memos we did with respect to changing the forms of government and the options available to the municipality.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Stas, comments?
The only comment that I would make is that I'm not sure that we need to do this. I'm not seeing the purpose for it. We've only been slightly over 11 years, this new form of government. I don't think enough time has passed to really test it to see if it's right. That's all.
You know what? I'll see if I can free up some time and be down as a possible member.
So if we do form this committee, you would be a council person.
And this, if I'm mistaken, this is not on the agenda for a vote tonight. correct?
No, it's not.
Okay,
This is-
I was just a little confused when people were asking to pull it. I
No,
was fumbling through. I didn't.
yeah,
think I-
we're not, but we're
for a
just,
vote.
we're
Okay.
discussing it. Yeah, we were, because we've gotten the letters. We've, I had originally said I would be willing to be part of it. I don't have the time now, so I wanted to just have do what we're doing now and have the discussion in public. And,
I don't see any harm in advertising again, since we're not voting on anything tonight. It's kind of like an it'll open application process, I think, until
Yeah.
we decide if we're gonna go through or not. I don't see any harm in that. And
I agree.
hopefully the Vernon News can cover it for free for us, and that would be additional advertising. Big advertiser, whatever it's called these days.
I think it's.
so Marcy, you can,
It is.
on the website that we'll be taking, we're continuing. Now, did we determine the size of the committee? No, we didn't.
I recall, didn't we say we wanted 5 minimum, otherwise we weren't gonna do it?
So if we have, is the resolution limit it then to the 5, or if we choose to have 7 people on the committee, are we able to just amend the resolution, John?
It just says
There's one or
2
two
members.
council and then 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really specify, so I'm just curious.
The resolution doesn't specify how many people are going to actually serve or whether or not it's going to be 1 or 2 council members. So that's something that can be determined based on the level of interest that the
Gotcha.
council gives
Okay,
the committee.
okay, all right. Okay, so we'll extend the application requests. And this will come back again at some point. Okay, thank you.
I would just like to say that for the people who did not see the post, it is under the public notices on the front page of the website where all notices are placed. It's like a flag thing that goes across. So you have to scroll through it to see what's being put on there.
Okay, thanks, Peg. Okay, the next item for discussion is Revolution, New Jersey. This, let me just hold on 1 second. This is a resolution that was shared to us from, was this from Sussex, Marcy? Yes, okay, from Sussex Borough. I just put it on as a discussion topic. It's a resolution to form some type of committee to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our country. I don't know if anyone on the council has any interest in forming a committee. It would be in 2026. I guess there's other towns that are doing that. Sussex Borough being one of them. I don't know if you guys all had a chance to look at what their resolution stated. I did Google Revolution, New Jersey. There's a website dedicated to it. There's different, I guess, events or ways we could honor that. So we don't have to decide that right now, but I did want to bring it to the council's attention. It could be 3 years. So if it's and the mayor, well, I don't know. We got 3 years, Mayor, you gonna be around?
Right on your tail, Mayor.
In months.
In months. So, but is this something that, that we as Vernon want to acknowledge, create some type of commemorative day, events, I don't know, whatever. So I just wanted to, if anyone has a question or idea, or if we can, it back as a discussion item another time, if you want to look over it. Thoughts from anyone?
I would tend to think the county would be doing something, correct?
We can reach out to the county
I'm-
and see.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think it should be honestly something coordinated through the county.
County. Yeah.
okay. I can definitely do that. I mean, it is a momentous occasion. And, if there's other towns doing something or even coordinating with another town and sharing resource, there's probably a lot of
Right.
different things we could talk about, so. But I can start out by reaching out to the county. And we can,
Maybe it is something we could put on our website to see if there's interest
public
in
interest.
the public to participate in such a thing.
Is that something we could put on our website without having a resolution, Josh?
What are you specifically posting on the website? Just interested.
Volunteers to help,
General interest.
general interest of maybe doing some type of event to commemorate the 250th anniversary of our country.
Yeah, if you're just soliciting ideas from members of the public, I don't see why you couldn't put on the website to have them submit their ideas to the council. Ultimately, if the council is going to take action on any of those ideas, it would be in the form of a resolution or ordinance.
All right, maybe we can talk about it a little bit more and think about it. I don't know, Mayor, if you had any, I mean, I know it's in the future, but it might be, I don't know if it's something maybe the rec department or other, areas in the, in our municipality that might want to be part of it. Yeah. I just thought it might be worth talking about, so I wanted to add it as a discussion item. Okay, and I will follow up with the county. Okay, so we pulled the cannabis ordinance, but you should have a copy of it. And there's a couple council members have indicated they wanted to amend some parts of that ordinance, so they've discussed it actually, and Mr. Tadrick, do you want to talk about your thoughts on that first, and then we can move on?
Want to go first, Jeff?
Or
Yeah, you can go first.
Okay, I would like to have it put out for public discussion. If the 2,000-foot requirement would go across the township for all cannabis facilities, being it manufacturing, being it cultivation, and of course, it already is on the books for retail. So I just wanted to see public discussion to find out what people feel about this and should move forward. That's all.
So Josh, just to clarify, not that we're approving this right now, but if that part of the ordinance was changed, we do have a business that would be within that 2,000-foot. Or if we do have, so would they be grandfathered in if that change was made to the ordinance?
Has that business made a land use application already?
I believe so.
They haven't come for the land use board yet.
Yeah, they have.
But have they-
They have made an application. I'm not sure which site made the application. I could check. But I know one did have a site, but there's a stop work order. I don't know if you're aware of or not. There's a stop work order on both sites.
I was not aware of the stop work order, but the fact
Okay.
that I'd have to check on the
Range and
both.
565?
Both. And that's what I want to get into with the ordinance, because the ordinance is so wishy-washy, to say the least.
Mhm.
I think we really have to look at the whole ordinance. I mean, I'm on the land use board. I've been on the land use board for a total of 30 years. The site in question up on 565 and the coordinating site on Maple Grange started work without any approval from DEP, any approval from wastewater management, any approval from anybody, including our engineers. And they put a stop work order on them now. And the reason this is possibly happening is because the ordinance is so poorly written. Speaking to the enforcement officer, speaking to Kim, I did speak directly to Glenn Keynes, the attorney, but I did speak to Corey and I speak to Jessica. This is fraught for legal issues with the town, the way it's written. It really has to be reviewed. It really has to be looked at. 2,000 I'm against the 2,000 foot that Miss the styles you just mentioned, because I think it makes it more restrictive, and I think that puts us on a legal liability. Does it not, Josh? We approved 2 people less than that, and now we're gonna come in and say the 3rd license now has new restrictions on it?
The fact that you have 2 applicants that have made applications for land use board, they would, I mean, I'd anticipate that they'd be very concerned with any change that would make their use no longer permissible, and they would fight the town on that, I would think.
I would think so too. I would
That
think
was,
so
and that
too.
was my question, but going forward, if those were approved through land use board, they had their issues worked out, whatever that might, whatever they might need to do. And then going forward, those, they were grandfathered in and the extension was made to 2,000 feet. Is there any legal issue then? If a new person comes in and says, well, those other people are under that 2,000 foot limit?
You can sue for anything, right, Josh?
You can file, you can.
There you go.
Councilmember Tadrick, that you can file a lawsuit for anything. Anyone that would apply after the ordinance becomes adopted and after the estoppel period applies, they'd have to comply with the new ordinance. Now, there may be other reasons they want to attack the ordinance to assert that it's invalid. And I'm not going to handicap a lawsuit that I haven't seen yet, but
Yeah,
you can sue for anything.
you can see for it. Okay.
I just think in talking to the people I mentioned, talking to our engineer, our lawyer indirectly, well, land use lawyer, I think we should take a look at this ordinance at whole, review it. The 2,000 foot thing is a problem for me because I've read the state law. I've read the federal law, both of them. The state law now does not have any distance at all because marijuana under the state law is no longer a controlled dangerous substance, a CDS. So the New Jersey League of Municipalities that everybody goes to and everybody thinks is high God has said you should now have 0 distance on your ordinance for any pot because it's not a controlled dangerous substance under New Jersey state law. Federal is still 1,000, but you'll ask, I've asked police, I've asked state police, I've asked DEA guys that I know, and basically nobody's going to hit a federal case unless you're moving pounds and pounds and pounds and pounds of pot. But right now, the way the law is written, as far as I understand, and Josh, you can correct me, if the bud bus, and everybody knows what the bud bus is, it goes around and it gives you free bud when you buy something for $75 or $80, whatever the deal is. If they pulled up right today on the parking lot of the pump track, I don't think the law or our ordinance would affect them. I know the law wouldn't,
Well,
because we have a store in town at the Acme who gifts pot every day. It is true. It is true.
well,
but-
I
I'm not going to debate with you.
think,
Hot dog stick.
oh, could we stay till public comments, please? I think you would need to have a commercial license to operate your business. So like a hot dog stand would, or an
Maybe.
ice cream truck.
Maybe.
So and maybe Josh can answer that. If
It's
can the
been
bud,
investigated, but it's still running.
can the bud bus
I see it on
Park
23 every
at
day.
Maple
Yeah.
Grange
So,
Park
what is that
and
here?
sell there, Josh?
Well, I think the issue with respect to the bud bus and with respect to certain outfits selling marijuana before they've been given a license is something we've addressed with Chief Young.
Mhm.
And I just, if any council members are interested in that, I'd ask that you speak with Chief Young about that. I know that he was communicating with the state with respect to whether or not the state was going to enforce any restrictions against those entities. And I don't want to misspeak or provide inaccurate information, but I
Well-
think the fact that it's still continuing is an answer in and of itself.
But my question, I guess, is more about mobile businesses. So a mobile business still needs to follow the regulations, right? So the hot dog truck cannot just set up his business in the parking lot at Maple Grange Park. Is that correct,
They would
Josh?
have to follow the zoning code with respect to.
Zoning code, exactly. So if the zoning code says you can't have a mobile business set up in these places, then you can't, no matter what your mobile business is, whether
So let's
you're a
take it-
mobile nail salon.
Let's take that away.
Yeah.
Let's say I want to make a smoke shop.
Right.
Let's say I want to make a smoke shop. All right. There's one right in the center of town right now, 30 jerseys. They're gifting pot
I know.
every single day. And the Fed shut them down. And the reason the Fed shut them down, it was a federal warrant, a DEA, because they were bringing pot across state lines illegally.
I
They're
know.
all open again.
So
So
what
you,
does that mean though? But we were
what I'm
just talking
saying
about
is the
oval
two,
places.
well, the 2,000 foot, I think is arbitrary and capricious. I think it was when it was actually put there. That's my opinion.
And I respect your opinion, Joe.
That's
don't
my
agree.
opinion. I know you don't agree. You have a different feeling about pot. I have no feeling about pot because I can't use it. As a Fed, I get tested. I can't use it. So I have no dog in this fight, except that I think it is arbitrary and capricious. Again, 2,000 foot from a pump track or anything else, when the state law says it should be 0. I'll go for 1,000.
So
I mean, I would be
I-
interested in 1,000
I
foot
do have
on
a-
normal conveyance, but
I understand your question there, Joe. So Josh, the state has its regulation. As a township,
you could be more.
we
strict.
pass an ordinance, we have the opportunity and the right to be more strict. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Well, the township's restriction of cannabis is limited to zoning. That's it.
Mhm.
You
And
Say
can,
that again, Josh?
the township's restriction of cannabis is limited to zoning. Zoning.
And that's what the ordinance
That's what the ordinance-
established. The ordinance
That's-
established those zoning regulations.
Correct.
Okay.
But that's all that you can do.
Exactly. So if the state has a zoning regulation of, drugs within a school and there's no limit now, the township can
pot.
have, the township can have an ordinance that might exceed what the state.
The town can, yes, the town can say, based on, our view, you should not be able to sell cannabis within however many feet of a school or some other type of use. They can adopt that land use regulation.
And isn't that how a town kind of frames, like through its, based on the master plan and maybe how they want their town to look, what type of businesses they want to attract through zoning via ordinances?
Just certainly.
So
Yeah.
we might not want to have a certain type of business in the town center because that's not the town center vision that the municipality has. We might not want to have a bail bondsman. I'm just throwing things out there, like so we craft that through ordinances. We want to have a certain look, a certain types of business. We want to have, a family-friendly town, however you want to phrase it, outdoor recreation town. So we might encourage outdoor recreation. We want to have a town that's known for great restaurants. So we might use zoning to encourage that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Then why did we not have the zoning attorney look at the ordinance or review by the enforcement officer or anybody else?
I wasn't
That's
on the
why-
council when that happened.
I know, I know. That's
So
what
I
I'm
don't
saying.
know. I can't answer that.
That's the point I'm saying. I think we have to take a look at
Is
this.
that typical, Josh, that the zoning attorney would?
Without proper
Ordinance?
evaluation, Joe, you're correct. Yep.
Usually,
And we need to go back and redo and fill,
Or at least review it.
redo it and fill in the blanks.
So I just have a quick question for Josh. So is that typical though, that when we had an ordinance?
Both these ordinances,
Excuse me.
I'm sorry, Josh, 1 second.
sorry, both of
no, I
these
think Martha's going to
ordinances,
answer the question.
they were sent to the land use board for their review.
Well, they were sent to the land use board and the land use board voted on them. However,
Mhm.
that was before anything started. And when I spoke to Corey, he
What
said
started?
this is people coming in here and getting licenses and getting licensed with the state.
I just know that.
What does that matter though? We have. the
Oh, I'm
ordinance.
gonna explain. I'm gonna explain now how it happened.
They had to. Once they were introduced, they had to go to the land use board for the land use board review.
Now, what happened was, nobody had asked for a license. We had no idea how to do this. It was all mush, basically.
Right.
And that's the same thing that Corey said. Corey looked at it, Jessica looked at it, Glenn Keynes looked at it. They have been working with various towns that have licensed facilities, growers and everything else. And everybody has been in the same boat where their ordinance was kind of mushy and they've gone and corrected it. We haven't. We have continued and, 2,000 foot or whatever Peg wants to do, adding stuff to it. We're in the 5th version of this ordinance. And the land use board attorney, the engineer, nobody has looked at it until now. And that's why we're running into the situation with the grower and everybody else. My suggestion is, since I'm on the land use board, is we can't do anything. It is what it is right now. Review it, have input from a land use board attorney, because that's what he does. He lives and breathes that. Have input from the enforcement officer who has to deal with this every day on phone calls and the zoning and planning office. So we can craft this so the town's not in any legal liability for somebody coming in and suing. And Josh said it last time, you can have a lawsuit for anything.
Well, I think, yes. we
So
can.
what is
So
the harm of reviewing it? That's my
I
point.
don't have a problem reviewing it. I
Okay.
think, the land use board did have the opportunity though. So when it went to the land use board, does the attorney typically review things then? You don't know?
No, he
All I
doesn't.
do is send it
Okay.
there.
Counsel- counsel
I don't know who looks at it.
His assumption is that the council knows what they're doing, which isn't always the case in anything. So I'm just saying, bring it back up. Let's look at it. Let's have the proper people look at it. Craft what needs to be crafted to make us stronger against any lawsuits and move on.
I'm not sure what lawsuits you keep talking about.
I
think it's just
don't
the
know.
2000
We're in a
feet.
situation now, Natalie, that the two places that we've already approved are now in stop work order because the way their attorneys read the ordinance, they didn't have to come before the land use board. It's implied, it's not explicit. Things like that, minor stuff that I wouldn't have picked up. But now we're in this box where these people have stop work orders on them. And I'm sure after all the work they did,
So
they're not taking it
They
lightly.
haven't come to the land use board.
They have an application, they're not going to be heard for another month, 6 weeks. Because of the schedule.
I don't have a problem reviewing it. I
That's
think we
all
can
I'm
have the
asking.
full ordinance.
That's all I think we should do. I think we should, if you want to do a subcommittee, I hate subcommittees,
No,
if
I
you
don't
want
think
to
we
do that.
need to do a subcommittee.
But I think we
No,
should
we can
have
focus
Glenn
on
Keys
that.
look at it, and I think we should have the enforcement officer look
So
at it.
Josh, what would be the way to handle that?
I think probably the way to handle it would be for the enforcement officer, for the mayor to have the enforcement officer provide her thoughts to the mayor regarding the current structure of the cannabis ordinance.
She's working on that.
And then for Glenn, council president to reach out to Glenn and ask that he provide his thoughts as well.
All I'm asking. The end of my discussion. And there's something else I didn't know, which might be, mayor might be interested. A lot of the towns are now charging a license fee, which is recurrent every year. So every cannabis, whatever, has to pay a license fee to the town, whatever the town sets, and that's a recurrent income revenue stream every year. We don't
That's
have a
not part of
license
the
ordinance. We could have one.
I think we ought to look into that. If it's gonna take place, we ought to use it as a revenue.
You know, and
I don't disagree with you there. I just,
Allison,
Administration's been looking into that.
okay, because they mentioned it, Corey mentioned it, Jessica mentioned it, and Allison. Okay, that's where it's coming from.
okay.
Because a lot of the towns do have a licensing fee now, and you have, up to, you have 7 different type of licenses times 3. That's 21 licenses. Is my math good? I went to Catholic school, so I'm not sure. If it's $500 or $1,000 each license each year, that's a nice little stream of income. But yeah, you could make it whatever. Yeah, I mean, whatever the towns are doing, I'm sure they're doing it a couple $1,000s minimum.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's something we don't have, so that's something we could add. If we'd added that, Josh, let's just say theoretically, we added a licensing fee. Would the people that have already been approved then be required to pay that licensing fee? Maybe not the first year, but the second year forward?
I would think following the adoption of the ordinance, they would have to pay it.
They wouldn't, or they would?
They would,
They would, okay.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. They're gonna come here anyway. We're stuck. We didn't opt in. It was the other board opted in. You're opted in for 5 years. You can't get out for 5 years. And you can't make it so restrictive that you really don't have licenses. You can't. So we're stuck.
Well, I mean, you can say that. I
Well,
don't,
it's
I don't
true.
really have to.
You don't have to agree, but a fact is a fact. You have to agree with the fact. Maybe you don't.
You don't, you can make
Opinion
it
and fact.
restrictive. That's the whole
You can
point
be-
of the
you
ordinance.
can be
make it as
restrictive.
restrictive as the council decides.
And then what you could have done is you could have opted out, which allows, if you opt out, you can opt in at any time. And that's what a lot of
wish
towns
we
have done,
opted out, but we didn't.
but we didn't.
I wasn't
So we're-
there,
So
so
we're
what do you
in.
mean?
So,
But we can still make it restricted. I mean, I don't have a problem, going over this ordinance again. I definitely don't. I'm happy to reach out to the land use attorney
Yeah.
and discuss that and get his input. We can definitely bring this up again and
I think we should consider licensing fees. I think we should consider whatever
I don't have
other
a
towns are
problem with
doing.
that, but we can, we can definitely make it restrictive. There's
You
no
can make it
problem with
as
that.
restricted if you want. I won't be here when you get sued. Fine by me.
Does anyone else have any comments about the cannabis ordinance? No. Hey, that is all of our discussion items. And we're gonna review the bills list now. Has every member received bills list? Does anybody have any questions or comments? We'll start with Mr. Rizzuto. Okay. Patrick, do you have anything?
Good.
Barna?
Negative.
Good. Mr. Sassy? Negative. Okay. We will move on to the consent agenda. I will read the resolutions, and after I do that, if anyone wants to pull any resolutions out, we can do that. Resolution 2383, resolution accepting the completion of road improvements project to various streets within Vernon Township. Resolution 2384, resolution accepting the completion of road improvements project, Coach Road and Pleasant Valley Drive. Resolution 2385, authorizing acceptance of grant in the amount of $149,000 from the New Jersey Highlands Council for development of Vernon Township Lake Watershed Management Plan.
I'd like to have that separated.
Have that separated, okay. 2385, resolution 2386, authorize the award of a professional services contract to Chris L. Nikolajowsik, ELM of Princeton Hydro LLC for Lake Watershed Management Plan in a required disclosure manner. Resolution.
I mean, I'd like to have that one. I think it ties in with the,
Okay, yep. Resolution 2387, emergency temporary appropriations. Resolution 2388, authorizing contract with Micros New Jersey LLC
Like to pull that.
for the year 2023 in the amount not to exceed 12,000. That will be pulled. Resolution 2389, a resolution authorizing acceptance of grant funds from Sussex County for the Town Center Greenway Black Creek Project.
Like to pull that.
Pull that. Okay, we'll pull that. Resolution 390, resolution to increase fund. Resolution 2391, a resolution expressing community support for paving the Town Center Trail for accessibility to seniors and individuals with disabilities.
Pull that.
We're gonna ask to hold that in resolution 2392, a resolution expressing community support for water and wastewater infrastructure projects that will be pulled too. So the only ones that are part of the consent agenda are 2383, 2384, 2387, and 2390. Got that, Marcy?
And 92, right?
She said that.
Oh, that was-
No, I-
they're the only ones
92.
part of.
Okay,
part of-
gotcha,
yeah,
gotcha.
The four that she read, we're moving away from a consent agenda tonight to discussion agenda.
Discussion agenda.
All right.
That's what I should have said.
Okay.
We're discussing more than we are consenting to. Okay. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as noted?
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Sparta, second by Mr. Patrick. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember DeStacy? Yes. Councilmember Rizzuto?
yes,
Councilmember Sparta?
Yes.
Councilmember Tadrick?
Yes.
The President Bushiari?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, and so now we will return to resolution 2383. Pull that up in a second. Okay. Oh, no, I'm sorry, no,
85.
2385. Got the wrong one already.
yeah, and
2385,
86.
and that is authorizing acceptance of grant in the amount of $149,000 from the New Jersey Highlands Council for development of Vernon Township Lake Watershed Management. May I have a motion for resolution 2385?
Move it.
Okay, moved by Mr. Tadrick. May I have a second? Second. Second by Ms. DeStacy. Okay, the resolution is on the floor. Does anyone have any comments or questions?
Yes, I do. I've read this and I can't say I disagree with it, but I'm wondering, does it begin to place us in a position where we are required for continued funding with these various lakes on an individual basis rather than through the lake associations, which I believe all of these have.
So this is one of the requirements from the Highlands for one of their tasks is
Right.
for plan conformance. They have specific things that we're required to do as part of the Highlands conforming items, and this is one of those, so they are willing to give us the funding to cover that.
Right.
As far as whether it obligates us in the future to take care of those private lakes, that's not what this plan does. What this plan will do is put something in place that we have an entire overview of our water beds at the lakes, which really is imperative to the town and the lake communities to understand what's going on, whether it's or other issues that they're having. In speaking with Jessica, the planner at our last meeting, she had mentioned that some of the lakes might already have issues with algae and growth, and this will address how that can be, what's going on, how that can be mitigated, and give us a real overall plan. But that does not, it does not force us to there are issues.
Many of the lakes have their own treatment plans. They provide the funding for it, part of their dues, their applications, and how they allocate their dues. I just don't want to have this become a situation where the township is being required to step in and assume those responsibilities. I found out more about eutrophication than I really want to know. I thought I had it from high school and college, but I guess I missed some classes. But I not that I'm against it, but my concern is the replacement of township, that HOA by the township for the funding these particular practices.
There's still private HOA brand situations in lakes.
All right, okay.
Will this info be shared with each individual lake community to help them?
Watershed management plan?
Yeah.
It'll be a public document.
And the individual, Chris L, I wouldn't even go, Chris M. Is he the person that's going to be the contact on this, or the manager of the program? Is that
Yes, he's a senior project manager.
senior project manager? Okay, all right.
Okay. Any other questions about 23.5? Okay, may I have a roll call vote?
Yes. Councilmember DeStacy,
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto,
Yes.
Sparta,
Yes.
Councilmember Tadrick.
Yes.
Council President Bushieri.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, may I have a motion for resolution 2386?
Moved.
Okay, moved by Mr. Sparta. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Patrick. Any other questions? Although these are related, right? These are related.
Yes.
But I think that question's been answered unless you have something else. No?
There's no matching involved this. It's strictly grant.
Sounds like grant, no matching funds.
Correct.
All right. Questions? May I have roll call vote?
Yes. Councilmember DeStacy,
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto,
Yes.
Councilmember Sparta,
Yes.
Councilmember Tadrick.
Yes.
Council President Bushieri.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Moving on to resolution 2388, authorizing contract for Microsystems New Jersey LLC for the year 2023 in the amount not to exceed $20,000. May I have a motion?
Move it.
Okay, Mr. Tadrick, may I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sparta. Okay, questions?
Yeah, I have no problem with it. The only thing I would ask, Mayor, is we've been asking, when I was in the public vein, we've been asking about having the computer company, and I'm assuming this is the computer company that deals with Zoom and everything?
No,
Oh, it's not?
Oh,
Okay, I'm sorry,
no,
because I was gonna ask them to turn one of the,
Talked about this, remember?
no.
Remember how that's come up?
never mind.
These are internal systems. No.
Okay.
Never mind.
All right, so any other questions about this resolution? Okay, roll call please.
DeStacy, I'm sorry. Councilmember DeStacy?
Yes.
You're the president. Councilmember Rizzuto,
Yes.
Councilmember Sparta,
Yes.
Councilmember Tadrick?
Yes.
Council President Bushieri?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, resolution 2389, a resolution authorizing acceptance of grant funds from Sussex County for the Town Center Greenway Black Creek project. May I have a motion?
Move it.
Motion by Mr. Tadrick. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sparta. Okay, so questions or comments?
Question. This is for trail, right? I'm assuming,
For the purchase of the Baldwin property.
right? It's for the trail on the Baldwin property. That's now kind of falling apart.
This was, so this, the portion that needed to be approved by council was missed. At some point.
Was missed.
I picked up on it, because we never received that $75,000 from the county. In researching, I found out that this was the portion that was not taken care of and brought before council.
So we ate $75,000 initially.
Sorry?
We ate $75,000 initially that we weren't expecting to eat.
No,
No,
we got,
no, they've got the money. The money is for us. In order for them to release it to us, we should have had a resolution from council.
Oh, so they already released it? They already released it to us?
they cannot release it to us unless we have this
So
resolution.
currently we used our own money to do it, is what my point is.
But it was discussed during the trail, when we were purchasing the Baldwin
Yeah.
property, if that was gonna be incorporated into it.
I wasn't here.
Yeah.
I was there. I was
So
out
I
there.
think, I do think one of the questions is the county has already approved these funds to be provided to Vernon Township.
You just need a resolution to receive the funds.
So is this going to cost us anything?
So this doesn't cost us.
This won't cost us anything. There's no match, there's no
No, this is,
extra engineering, there's none of that stuff. This is just money that was owed to us and we hadn't gotten because of a clerical error.
I have a question about all of, were the meets and bounds provided to the county as requested in here?
The county has the information it asked for. Yep.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
No, the county has the information it requested.
They
That's
do,
fine.
okay.
Yeah.
And the other question that I had was, it also states in here that we would be applying for $100,000 Green Acres grant, which of course we didn't do and haven't received. Does that in any way jeopardize the deal, the contract here? Because it does say within here that if everything isn't met, it will nullify the contract. So I'm just curious, does it have an impact?
I don't believe it does, Donnell. Do you have any insight into that?
I believe that it does.
No,
So to follow up Ms. Stasi's, I didn't notice that, and thank you, Paige, for picking it out.
Yeah.
So it's saying that the township, upon receiving this $75,000 or whatever it is going to then follow up with a grant? No,
No.
Apply for a grant.
This-
apply for a grant.
On Schedule B, which is like the second to last page, page 50. It's approved project description and estimated budget, and part of that estimated budget included this $100,000 from a Green Acres grant. I am unaware of any Green Acres grant that was applied for this purchase. I mean, the purchase has already been made.
yeah, and $75,000 is the only amount of money that they've approved for us or we've applied for.
Okay.
It also says that the completion from Maple Grange to Mountain Creek will be completed within a time frame of 12 months. So again, that's a question of, is that going to jeopardize that? It does say in here, if we don't meet these obligations in Schedule B, that
Have to.
it does jeopardize so I'm asking, do we have clarification that because we didn't meet these requirements, we're not going to be in kind of jeopardy?
So I think the scope is what the area you're referring to. It says the acquisition will connect the Vernon Municipal Complex to township-owned open space, which is accurate. And it says a hiking and biking trail will be developed along this route with the goal of connecting the township's Maple Grange part of the Mountain Creek property.
Goals, not.
So the goal, it's not,
Right. And that goal cannot be accomplished without that parcel of land. That's what it's saying.
Okay, I'm just clarifying, that's all. It does say it has to be executed within 12 months, so and that's not possible.
What
It
would,
says right here, upon execution,
Months to complete the
the
approved project.
guarantee will have 12 months to complete the approved project.
the project was the purchase of the Baldwin property and the trail.
Oh, okay, it's not extending.
Not the entire. Okay, just clarifying, that's all. I don't want to find out in 2 years that we're in trouble here.
So the goal is an aspirational meaning to it.
Yeah.
Personal statement.
Yes, but this goal especially, I'm concerned about being aspirational. Thanks.
Any other comments for 2389? Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember DeStacy,
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto,
Yes,
Councilmember Sparta,
Yes.
Councilmember Cadrick,
Yes.
Council President Bushieri.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Resolution 2391, a resolution expressing community support for paving of town center trail for accessibility to seniors and individuals with disabilities. We have a motion for resolution 2391
Move it.
by Mr. Cadrick. May I have a second? Second by Mr. Rizzuto. I also wanted to have this discussed. Now, the trail, so now that this references, it's not currently paved,
Right.
correct? It's
Right.
like a gravel dirt trail.
Mhm.
Has it ever been paved or has it always been a gravel dirt trail?
Right. The long run plans were to pave the trail.
Okay.
But we did not have an additional money.
Do we have an estimate of the cost for paving that?
I've been working with Corey to get an estimate on
But
it.
you don't have that yet?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And this is a matching funds grant. Now, I did ask you a question about this, so can you explain where we would get the matching funds and how that would be accomplished?
So that's entirely up to the mayor and council. They would get those matching funds. So I just want to
Okay.
be clear.
Yep, that's, well, just give us our options.
Yes,
Yeah.
so one, I just want to explain that this is congressional funding, it's not county funding. I think I've heard a couple people say county funding or state funding, congressional funding.
Mhm.
This is the same type of application that we put forward for the police water that we just received from the feds recently. So this requires a 25% match, and the township has a couple of ways to match that. They can appropriate from a specific line item in the budget. So if you wanted to take it from like maintenance of parks, and you could put a line in there, an extra 25% to match whatever the feds would give us. You could also do a specific line called matching funds for grants, which is, I think you've seen in this upcoming year's budget that we anticipate for recreational opportunities for individuals with disabilities grant, the horse therapy that we spoke about a couple times. We could appropriate it that way. Also, the township has from the hotel occupancy tax, back when the short-term rental ordinance was passed, they changed the hotel occupancy tax to allocate 5%, 6%.
6%.
Yes, thanks. 6% of the hotel occupancy tax goes to an active recreation line. I call it an active recreation line in our open space trust fund. It's very similar to the referendum that was approved back in 2018. So I kept it in the same trust fund for that purpose, where you can maintain or repair or create trails or like that from that line.
And how much is in that fund?
Currently $76,000.
How much is this gonna cost?
payout be on this?
I'm sorry.
How much would the payout be on this?
What is the amount?
So it depends on what I've been working with Corey, and I should have a number this week so that we can apply for it by the end of the week.
Okay.
Just an estimate. So we would ask for the full amount. They're going to say, this is what we'll give you,
And we have to, if, just for round numbers, if they give us 100,000, we have to provide 25,000.
correct.
So we don't know how much we'll have to provide until we know how much they give.
Correct.
Right.
Could be more than what's in our hotel occupancy fund.
So we have no number on this,
Well-
basically. That's what you're telling me.
It depends on what the total project is estimated.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So,
Well, this is-
yeah, I have no idea what the.
I mean, $76,000 is 25. That's a lot if it was 25%. I can't foresee a paving project like that trail.
Being $300,000, basically.
But are we just talking paving at this point? Because that trail's pretty much beat. And why are we,
The trail really is not pretty much beaten. The trail,
pictures I've seen,
no, I walked, the trail is not pretty much beaten. the trail was always envisioned to be paved simply because where it's located. And what happens is that when you have heavy rain and downpour,
Gotcha.
the sun sections wash away.
Gotcha.
The primary maintenance on this trail, in fact, the primary maintenance for the town center park is really re-raking that trail. There's hardly no maintenance as it relates to the pump track portion of it. And if in fact we could pave it, that will eliminate that requirement of having to constantly re-rake that.
So this is,
It just needs to be paved.
so we can just visual, this is a trail that will go around the pump track and also down the hill towards
Yeah.
Yes, all of that would be in the pavement.
all of that. So it's
Yeah.
around the pump track and also down the hill towards the PAL.
Not, correct. The portion that goes around the pump track doesn't wash out. That's not the washed out portion. The portion,
But that's the part that's ADA accessible.
that's the part that's ADA accessible.
That's the part this references. Right?
Well, we want the whole trail to be ADA accessible.
Okay.
But it can't be ADA accessible.
That hill,
You have a
that's
slope
close.
greater than 3%.
That hill is
Well-
probably not gonna be
I mean-
ADA accessible.
I guess my question is, we had an engineering company, we had Salmon Brothers, who was a pretty big company,
Mhm.
build this thing.
Right,
We had Corey do the engineering work.
right.
So my question is, who screwed up?
Nobody, what makes
Somebody
you,
had to screw up. Somebody had to screw up. Come on, let's be real. If you're engineering something,
tell me what part screwed up?
very simple. If I have a professional company
Yeah,
engineering a project for me,
yeah.
they better know wash off and rain and all that stuff. They better put that in their development. We see it in the land use board every day.
They knew that if we did not pave this, with heavy downpours, this would happen. The Solomon Brothers built the trail based on the money that we agreed to pay them. And that money was not for to be paid.
I get that.
Yeah,
But isn't there some kind of recourse we have to go back? Isn't there a bond that they took out?
they did,
They did what they were supposed to do.
absolutely,
They did what we told them to do. So
absolutely.
we screwed up.
So it's, yeah,
We shouldn't have built it. We shouldn't have built it unless it's
Now,
gonna be
okay,
paid.
all right,
Unless it was
okay.
gonna be paid,
Okay. All right,
right? I'm just trying to get this straight. So we built it with the anticipation of getting paved.
Yep.
But if we weren't sure it was gonna get paved, we probably shouldn't have built it until we had that money. Does that make sense?
what would you make you think that I wasn't sure it was gonna be paid?
Because we're here
We didn't have the
now.
Money. And you just told me that the contract with Salmon would not be paid.
I was a freeholder when we broke ground for Maple Grange Park.
I know.
And that place was nothing like what it looked like now.
I agree.
Absolutely. And that was, the trails around Maple Grange Park were not initially paved. The plan was to have that done eventually.
I was here, I know.
Yeah, so it's some,
I'm just, Howard, I'm just asking a simple
no, I'm
question.
answering your question too, within the same framework.
I don't understand if a contracting firm is contracted to build something, then they have a certain warranty that goes with that build, I would think. And if they're gonna build something that washes out because of rain, they're gonna sure put that in their contract that we're not responsible when the rain hits, an act of God. If that's in the contract, I'm cool. But I don't know if it's in the, I haven't seen the contract, so I don't know. But I'm just saying, isn't there something, so like I said, it's not,
Solomon Brothers did what we asked them to do.
so my statement then is, again, we asked them to build the trail with the anticipation that it would be paved.
Absolutely.
We didn't have the money to do that. so
At
it
that
got
time, no,
washed
we
out.
did not.
So it got washed out.
No, we
So-
did not.
How long
It's
ago did they
damaged.
complete the trail? How long ago did that happen?
Excuse me?
How long ago was that trail completed? Was it a year? Has it been a year?
maybe.
But it's, I don't know the exact date, but only so many months.
Yeah.
But the point is that the trail is not washed out because it's old. If in fact we built the trail today and we had heavy rains tomorrow, because there's a certain portion that washes out.
What that says to me is it was not designed properly for drainage. I have a huge driveway that goes down in a slope. And we have had to put underground piping to steer the water that's coming down the street. Because within the first couple of years, the whole driveway washed out after repetitive storms. So what you're saying is, okay, you were gonna pave it in the future, but in the interim, in the last 4 months, there has been major drainage issues. That tells me that it wasn't properly designed.
And I wouldn't say that. Solomon Brothers did what they were supposed to do.
They did,
I've been,
but they didn't do.
no, if, I can understand if you don't agree with the trail, I can understand that.
Nothing to do with me agree with the trail.
Nothing about the trail. It's the status of the trail after 4 months it's horrendous over there.
Because I mean, the money whatever the money Congress gives us to pave the trail. A portion of that, I'm assuming it's going to be to fix it. Whatever is wrong with it. If there's anything wrong with it, they're going to have to regrade it. They're not going to just throw blacktop on top of it.
It's just needs to be paid. Because of the fact that when you regrade the trail, it's like it was when you regrade the portion where there was a runoff. It's like it was the day it was done.
And it's gonna do the same thing again. It's gonna wash out again if it's not.
That would be the primary maintenance for the town center park will be the trail, that portion of it.
And we'll be doing, DPW will be doing that.
DPW.
Just as DPW does for the other two.
Maple Green.
They will.
Okay, I'm just trying to find out who's going to be.
Right, absolutely.
All right.
I just have a very tough time voting on something. I have no idea what's gonna
Yeah,
cost.
this is gonna
Yeah,
be-
I have a problem.
I mean, if we knew this was coming, why did we not get a price on
Right.
paving it before this was on the agenda?
Well, essentially, what we're doing, we're applying, we're now applying under the same grant for 2023 that we applied for on the 2022 for the 4.2
2.4 for the wastewater.
$3.2 million.
Yeah. So
We didn't totally know what it was going to cost to extend all of the pipes into our sewer service area. So if in fact the council does not want us to apply for this grant, we won't apply for it.
Okay, so question, so if this were approved, and I think it's a pretty big if at this point, and the project comes in at $300,000 and we get $100,000 from the grant, is there going to be another resolution for accepting of the grant money that we can say no to?
If the project comes in at $300,000 and they originally awarded
Your seat.
the only way that it would be able to move forward is to ask council for additional funding.
That's my point.
we could stop it at that point.
I've got another question. You had planned to pave it. That was the plan. So I would have to, I hate using the word assume, but I'd have to assume since you had planned to pave it, you must have had some idea what it was going to cost to pave it. Right? So I know Corey has to do new numbers. I get that. But you should have a guesstimate from the last time when you wanted to have it paved, right? So what was that guesstimate? I mean, I'm sure you just didn't say Solomon Brothers make this dirt trail and we're going to pave it. We don't know how much pavement's going to cost. You must have had an idea what the paving was going to cost, even though you didn't have the money for it. So what was that estimate back then?
We didn't have the estimate, when Maple Grange Park was built, they didn't have it. No,
That's different.
let me answer that.
That's different.
Look,
That's history.
No, you seem to think that before you do something, you got to have a cost for every single thing.
Well, I don't build a building unless you know what every single wall and window and bulb are going to cost. That's part of the job estimate. You know that, Howard. Come on. Maple Grange Park, I mean, yeah, you have an initial view of something. I get that. You have an initial development plan and phased it. I get that. But if you're planning to blacktop something, okay, I'm sure you have some estimate in your mind, at least, what that's going to cost. I mean, what if the trail costs $500,000 and it's, $1 million to stop it? I don't know. I don't know what it's going to do that now, but I'm sure you don't go willy-nilly and go, oh, we'll worry about that later.
No.
I mean, I wouldn't build a house like that. So that's all I'm asking. All I'm asking is, what was your estimate when you had planned to tar it or blacktop it or whatever then? And if you're telling me you don't have one, and now you're telling me, well, we'll see, I can't vote for that. I can't vote for that.
Well, that's okay.
I'm sorry, I just can't.
Don't be sorry. Just, you know what, if you do not want us to apply for the grant, don't vote for it.
I just know what
I mean,
the.
I can understand that. If I can't answer all your questions, then, you know, that won't simply be part of our estimate for this grant.
I would just.
What can I say?
I would just like to have an idea what you think the grant's gonna be. $1 million, $100,000, $10,000. I mean, you know, we can go from $10,000 to $1 million. I don't know what it costs.
Are we able to get the estimate that Corey's gonna provide? Corey's gonna provide an estimate for paving and approve this at a later date? What's the timeline for this?
We need to send everything in by Friday, but I was gonna reach out to Congressman Gottheimer's office today and I didn't get a chance to.
This
So
is-
find out if we can send it after the next meeting.
So it has to be in by Friday. When did you know about it?
No, it's in the 9th hour is what I want to know.
I only found out about it when they opened it up a week ago.
Really? Well, I can see the government doing that. They've done
I
that.
mean, the last year they opened it up, like, we had to do the same thing, like at the
Yeah.
11th hour, the last.
It was Friday afternoon when you asked me if it could go on the agenda because Marcy had already made it and you asked for 2 new things to go on there.
I understand, but I've seen that with FEMA grants and things like that, last minute kind of stuff.
Why don't we, put this off until our next meeting and see if you can get an extension.
I make a motion to table, resolution 2391.
Okay, most
Second.
made the table. Mr. Sparta, a second by Ms. Bessie. Thank you.
Just to make a point of interest.
You're not supposed to have any discussion after it's tabled.
Yeah, yeah,
Can't talk
table,
about it.
we're done.
Sorry.
You can say during public comments. Oh, a vote, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
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 Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Table.
The table, yes.
Councilmember Stassy,
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto,
Yes.
Councilmember Sparta,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Council President Bushieri.
Yes. All right, and the last resolution, a resolution expressing community support for water and wastewater infrastructure projects.
Move it.
Moved by Mr. Patrick. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rizzuto. Okay, so this is the same grouping of grants. Okay. And this is for additional funding to continue to expand our sewer system, or what's the
For sewer expansion,
for sewer expansion? Okay.
I'm sorry, but could you speak up?
sorry, for sewer expansion,
Is this also a matching funds grant?
yes.
And what is do we have an estimate on the project, or is this?
So there's multiple areas where the MUA is requesting expansion through the DEP for the sewer service area. Depending on what areas you're looking at, they're all different estimates.
Okay.
So provided that they approve the last mapping that we sent to them. It could be anywhere, I mean, I'm not gonna request this much, but it could be anywhere from $5 million to $15 million, depending on where those expansions are taking place.
Okay. And what's the percentage that we need to contribute then?
25%.
25% addition. So if they give us $1 million, we would have to contribute $250,000.
Correct, which would be a deficit back from the MUA due to the township.
That was my next question. So that those funds would come from the MUA.
Yes.
Can we use any 3.4 for matching?
That 3.4 was the grant for this 2023 year.
I know.
So we still need to provide 25%
Of that?
for that.
The 3.4.
Yes.
And where is that going to come from? The MUA?
So basically what happens is with sewer projects, if it was a utility, it would just work on the township side, but since an authority, the MUA would charge connection fees based on the total cost of the project for the debt service, right? So if we were gonna take $1 million out as I just use even numbers, $4 million project, we have $1 million. That $1 million would be considered towards the total debt that the MUA holds, and then we could create a connection fee based on that.
That we pay.
That
The MUA holds, but we pay.
The MUA takes out the debt and then the ratepayers are paying it and that's how they pay off the debt.
Correct.
Is it just the ratepayers that are connected to the system?
It
Is
is,
it everybody?
it is the ratepayers that would be connecting to the system.
New ratepayers.
New rate.
The ratepayers.
Any new ratepayers pay connection fee.
So new sewer lines are put in, new ratepayers come in, they pay connections and that pays off the debt service.
So just a side question, and you probably don't know the answer. I don't think anybody living knows the answer. Is the MUA ever going to become profitable or at least zero net?
Well, the MUA had a net position $100,000 last year.
Really? So then why are all these rumors, and I'll say they're rumors because I can't produce paperwork saying that the debt is moving across all people in the town? That everybody in the town pays part of the MUA debt by the taxes. Is that true or is that?
So, okay. So the MUA is an authority,
Yeah.
which is a utility. MUA does not have a legal ability to hold its own
Paper.
debt service.
Right,
It can't
got it.
issue its own debt service,
Right.
which is the way the authority was created here.
I know.
That's not
It
typical.
was supposed to be profitable in 5 years, I think.
Essentially,
Anyway,
the authority functions, operates pretty much the way a utility does in this town. It's just held by a separate board. The agreements that the township made was with the township and SCUMA.
Right.
And then there's an agreement between the MUA after it was created and the township that there would be ratepayers. That money would come to the township to pay off
okay,
the fees charged by SCUMA. So that's how it functions. But to be clear, all of the revenue the township receives is in one bucket
right.
and it pays all of its bills.
And MUA is one of the bills,
And the MUA, the SCUMA bill is one of those bills.
which is,
The revenue from the MUA is one of those revenues.
so to be more specific, and excuse my lack of knowledge here. But so out of this bucket of money that the town pays the bills, their bills, they pay SCUMA.
Yes,
The only people that are really using SCUMA are the people on the source system.
yes.
Yes. So again, I go back to the question. You're really good at dancing around. I like that. You're a good dancer. The bottom line is every taxpayer is paying for the SCUMA debt is my point. Is that correct?
Every taxpayer is on the hook for SCUMA debt.
Gotcha. I heard rumors about it. And like I said, I don't have the paperwork to say this or that, so I don't get in the middle of that dog fight with people. I was just curious. And since we're talking about it, so that is a fact.
Yes,
We all pay for it. We all pay for the users that have source.
yes.
Gotcha. Thank you. That's all.
Of the sewer debt that is paid out of that bucket, what percentage would you say is covered by the bill, the user's bills, the user's payment in
Taxpayers' revenue,
Yeah.
100%.
100%? So 100% of what is due is coming in from the sewer
Ratepayers.
users?
The ratepayers. That's what I said before. You have revenue coming in from the MUA,
Right.
from the ratepayers. If the MUA's budget is very specific and it states, $2.5 million is the payment to the township that's owed to the township.
So although the township residents, homeowners are responsible for the debt, it is currently being covered 100% by only the users. Is that what you're
You have to understand it's one big bucket.
Yeah.
So a perfect example of when that did not happen was in 2018 and 2019.
Mhm.
Where the MUA didn't have enough cash flow in order.
So we had
the
to-
township-
yeah.
But now they do, is what you're saying. This year they do.
Yes,
So we kind of backplay them for loans. We kind of co-signed their loans in a way.
took out the whole loan.
Yeah.
We took out
Yeah, we took out the whole loan for
whole-
them and they were supposed to be at some point be able to pay that back,
Mhm.
like my kids from school. And if they don't pay their loan, I gotta pay it. So that's the situation the town's in. Okay.
And they currently are. So currently, what our bill with SCUMA is what we're receiving
Mhm.
from the ratepayers currently. Okay. Does that make sense to
Yeah.
everybody?
Mhm.
Okay.
So that going forward, does anybody have questions about this specific? You don't have to wait the public comment, sir. About this particular resolution. Thank you. So this resolution then, the goal is to increase ratepayers.
Yes,
But it's gonna be a cost. Initial.
Because we need to,
there,
A big initial cost.
there is a cost to do that. The idea is to, if the feds will cover 75% of that cost, then that is ideal.
So not to belabor this point. But I will. Just to annoy you, I will. So if the estimate on this project is $5 million, Okay, and the feds give us $2 million. We come up with 25% of that $2 million. Who's on hook for the rest? We are, right?
No,
It would-
no, we would extend as far as we can
Okay.
in that.
all
We
right.
would tailor our project.
To the amount of money
The
available.
amount of money.
Gotcha.
we got.
Okay, that's all I wanted.
And then the 25% would be taken out in debt service that the MUA
Correct,
would be paying back.
Okay.
Until they can't pay it back anymore, and then we have to pay it back.
correct.
If there are
We
kids that went to college and they
we
go down their
don't Need to provide any down payments for that because of the type of debt that it is.
Okay. Thank you, Denor.
Totally. Yeah.
Anybody, it's very complex and we'll probably ask you this again. I'm sure. But
I
you did
know I'll
explain it well.
forget.
Thank you, Dano.
Have you decided where the infrastructure, the particular areas are going to be prioritized
Believe the MUA is speaking about that on Thursday at their meeting,
Thursday?
how they would recommend to the mayor and the council what they would recommend doing.
Okay.
But I think that we have a general idea. I mean, right now, we have an existing sewer service area where not all customers in that existing sewer area are able to be connected.
Are you going to venture, it's the you could probably get an answer for the MUA, but I'll ask. Is there going to be a point where the MUA requires hookup? Versus right now, it's kind of like, from what I understand, if you have a septic or you don't have to hook up. But is there going to be a point when the town goes, we don't care what you got to hook up, your sewer lines in front of your house or whatever, you got to do it.
So you said two things there, the MUA and the town.
The MUA, I'm
So
sorry.
no, that's the key though. So the MUA has in their bylaws that you are required to hook up.
Okay.
Provided you have a main in the street and there's a lateral to connect, right?
Gotcha, okay.
The MUA does not have the authority or the power to
Enforce.
Enforce it.
enforce that,
Oh,
right?
town.
The MUA's level of enforcement is to charge that individual their sewer fees regardless of whether they're physically connected.
Okay,
Okay, so that's that enforcement level. The township council, the township has the ability to pass its own ordinance to force sewer connections, provided that those laterals and mains are out.
and we don't have that ordinance,
That ordinance is not in place.
something maybe we should think about.
But if their septic goes bad, then they have to, because we do not have to issue a permit for a new septic.
So if they are
On the line.
a sewer main outside of their front,
Mhm.
there's a sewer main in the lateral there.
Mhm.
According to MUA, they are required to connect.
the people drive me fucking crazy.
She doesn't know her mic is hot.
Oh, boy, you're.
Mic is hot.
Mute yourself. Mute.
Got a hot mic.
I hear them.
Mute yourself.
I muted her.
Gosh, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Post COVID.
I don't even know where I just left off.
I don't know either, Danelle, honestly.
I'm sorry, the septic requirement, so the MUA would require, but there's the only enforcement that we have is to charge them. If their septic goes bad. I don't really know how that would work. We haven't had that.
Have that happen, okay.
But in order to get permits,
This is the county
any
health
town, they have to satisfy other
Okay.
entities, so.
Right. Thanks.
Any other discussion or questions regarding 2392?
Gonna vote on it.
Anybody else? No? Okay, may I have a roll call vote?
Yes. Councilmember DeStacy,
Yes.
Councilmember Ludo,
Yes,
Councilmember Sparta,
Yes.
Councilmember Tadrick,
Grudgingly, yes.
Council President Bushieri.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. So we pulled ordinance 2309. Now we are at the public hearing, the second reading of ordinance 2305. Ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey to repeal and replace chapter 170 of the municipal code entitled Cable Television and Communications, and to grant municipal consent for the operations of a cable television system within the Township of New Jersey, Vernon, New Jersey, to CSC TKR LLC. May I have a motion to open the public hearing for ordinance 2305?
Move it.
Moved by Mr. Tadrick. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. DeStacy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, okay. Is there anyone in the public in person here that wishes to come forward and speak regarding ordinance 2305? So just this ordinance, the public hearing. Okay, is there anybody online, Nancy, that has any comments?
I don't see any hands up.
You don't see any hands up?
Yeah,
Okay,
Those are old hands?
no, there's no hands up right
they're
now.
muted.
Oh, they're muted.
Yeah, that's
Gotcha.
muted.
I can't see that far.
Okay.
See a little yellow.
You need better glasses.
I do.
You need better glasses.
I was like, that looked like hands to me.
Okay, seeing no members of the public wishing to come forward, may I have a motion to close the floor to public comment?
Move it.
Moved by Mr. Tadrick, may I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sparta, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? No, okay, so we have some discussion, I know some questions, we have a member of CSCTKR, I'm sorry, I forget, I can't read her name.
Marilyn.
Marilyn, hi Marilyn, sorry about that. So we did have some questions from our previous meeting, and I'm not sure if you're able to address any of those questions.
Can you unmute Marilyn?
Okay, good evening. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I just want to first say my apologies. I had an unexpected surgery, so this fell off my radar until I got the questions today. If I'm unable to answer the questions there, I'm happy to come back at your next council meeting while my team is working on pulling together some of the questions, most of the questions. So if I'm unable to answer your questions, now I'm happy to come back at your next council meeting to respond to the questions specifically.
Okay, so I appreciate that, Marilyn. Josh, are we under any timeline obligation with this ordinance if we table this again?
I don't know offhand if we're under any time pressures from the BPU to approve this. But I would say that I've heard that there's a possibility that there may be some interest in or having a discussion about what the consequences are of not renewing the franchise. And just so that the council is aware, if the council intends to deny the cable franchise, there needs to be a separate resolution of denial. Additionally, if there are concerns with respect to the past performance of the cable operator, the operator needs to be aware of those performance issues and be given notice and an opportunity to cure. So I will check. The BPU has been very accommodative with respect to the municipality approving this franchise, but I do think that those are, I will check with the BPU if the council desires to table this.
Josh, who is the company? I mean,
Verizon.
No, well, Marilyn can answer that.
Maryland.
Happy to answer that question. The company is Altice USA. We acquired Optimum in 2020. I mean,
Gotcha.
2016.
So so Optimum.
So I should probably recuse myself because she helped me get hooked up there for a year and a half.
I think if we all, so I know we did have some questions at the last meeting. If does the council comfortable?
You want to ask the question when,
She's not able to answer them.
well, she said not all of them, correct?
Well, you have the questions ahead of time. So are you able to answer any of the questions that you were
Sure.
emailed earlier?
Sure, and some of them require some clarifying. For instance, I think there's a question regarding polls.
Mhm.
The poll on,
Right here.
they're local down polls. So I'm not sure who asked that question, if that person wants to expound on their question, but I'm happy to address polls in general.
I think Mr. Sassy, or I think you sent the email and I sent.
Yeah,
her.
I think.
Were they all your
question-
questions
I
or
think
what?
Part of that question was she was listening to the meeting, and I think what specifically was there was wires, and there were cable wires connected to poles. I believe it was on 515
They've been,
that were, they've been what?
they've been attached.
They've been attached, yeah, and it was quite a long time though. It was
Yeah.
it was a very long time that those wires were hanging. So I think it was just a concern. A lot of community members actually, I think, called or contacted the electric company or the phone company thinking they were other wires. So I think that time frame was just a concern.
I think the concern was the response time for maintenance and repairs.
And that's just one,
Historically been good in town, and we wanted to know if that will be addressed in the future.
So anytime there is a down wire or hanging wire in town, all the town has to do is just let me know and we'll get a crew to come out. The crew teams to come out in like within 24 hours to fix down wires. depending on what's happening in the state, like there's a storm or something, maybe a delay, but they tend to come out pretty quickly to address down wires.
I think the other questions are very pertinent to us being able to take a vote, which is the timeline for when Vernon will be serviced and when the what's the word I want to say? Fiber optics, thank you, will be available in Vernon. I think those are the questions we really want an answer to.
So to be clear, what you're authorizing tonight is a cable franchise, not on broadband. So it although it's relatable, it's not pertinent to today's vote. The fiber optic, we currently have a hybrid network that's both fiber optic and coax. We are in the process of upgrading our network throughout the state. Unfortunately, the upgrade to fiber optic on the residential side is not occurring in Vernon this year.
Right, and we wanted to have an approximation of when it would be approaching Vernon. You know, not just, well, it's gonna come sometime in the future, if you can give us a time frame.
So I do not have an approximation on when it's gonna happen. And again, this is a cable franchise, it's not broadband, because the council does not govern broadband services. So I don't have an approximation on when that will take place.
Okay.
There was also the question about the dependability rate and the annual outage complaint data for comparison performance. So is that any information you might have, Marilyn?
I do not have any outage. What I do have is some performance information, but not on outage. And again, we're just confirming, but from what I've been told, there hasn't been any major outages in Verona. I know there was some ice storms in December that may have caused some service issues. I don't have that data in front of me, but that is, again, data I'm happy to come back and provide to you. But on the performance side, we looked at the node health. Node health is where it impacts the broadband service. And node health is at its target number. Our target is like 99%. It's as of February is 99%. Our goal is 98%, so it's exceeding. So the node health is fine there. We looked at the fluidity of the network, upstream and downstream, and again, there's no node issues there. We looked at the complaints. So the complaint data I was able to get in short order was the complaints are averaging about 7 per month. Over the last 6 months, it's about 7 per month. And in February, we had just 1 complaint from the town. And then we also looked at the technical service rates as well as the service visit rates, technical service, when like people call. On the service visit rates, we saw in February, it was at 0.19%. Our average for the East is 0.23%, so it's below the average. And on the technical service rate, again, the calls, the rate was at 0.99%. And for the East, the average is 1.70%. So it's below that. And on the field side, we do track on-time performance. And in February, it was at 86%, which is down slightly month over month, but shows an improvement over the last 6 months. Year over year shows at 3.6%. We also track repeat rate. During 2020, we certainly had some challenges where we had to, when we had technicians going to homes more than once. So we do track overall repeat rate, which is at 13.9% for February, which is, again, month over month, but has improved consistently over the last 6 months. And then lastly, we track customer satisfaction. It's at, again, in February, it was at 9.5% out of 10. Which is 8% month over month improvement. So we've seen that the residents who have rated the technicians at a higher rate month over month.
Ms. Davis, was this Verona or Vernon you were looking at?
Vernon.
Okay, I thought I heard you say Verona. Okay.
You're not the only person who's done that. It's okay.
Also talk fast, you know.
No, that's okay.
It happens. It happens.
You've heard Verona, but no,
Yeah.
Vernon.
Mayor, I would like to ask you, Did you notice that none of our ambulance squads are included for free service on the code? I was wondering if that was just an oversight or
None of our ambulance squads of what?
ambulance buildings. None of our ambulance buildings are available to receive the free service as all the schools and all the firehouses and the PAL and of course our main building here all have free service.
Free cable service.
Free cable service, but the ambulance squad buildings do not. And I was just wondering if that was an oversight or if it can be given to them as well. I mean, they're there manning the buildings too.
We actually don't look for free cable service for them, but I guess the question here is that she says that there are locations, I'm not even sure if they want it, but there are locations, ambulance locations, could they be given free service?
Let me see, just give me one moment to look.
I don't know who's getting free service.
It's
I
on
don't,
page 5 and 6.
I don't think that they most certainly have complained about it.
Okay.
On page 5 and 6 of the
That's all I
ordinance.
Yeah.
just say we're in it. That's all. I didn't know if it was an oversight or. Okay, not a big issue.
One moment, just one moment, I want to review the ordinance really quickly.
Yeah, it starts on page 5.
So if the ambulance service is considered a municipal building, it would be included. So if you look at section 170-11, it says all municipal public libraries as well as municipal buildings located within the municipality.
Are the ambulance squads
Find out.
owned?
It's the municipal.
The ambulance squads own their buildings.
They own their own building.
We own the equipment. So technically, probably the reason they aren't on, they haven't gotten it, they are not an official
Not officially missing.
for those, but my best guess, if we ask for it, they ask us for it,
Yeah,
get it.
get it, yeah.
But isn't that the same with the fire department? The fire department
Yeah, they are.
own their own
They
building.
own their
Yeah,
bill.
that's why they're.
And they're included.
They're
listed
included.
here independently, so.
Mm.
Is that something that we could request and then add that at a later date?
They're municipal owned building, yes.
Well, they're not a municipally owned building, so they're like our fire departments, like our volunteer services own their own building, but we
Right.
own the equipment. So they're a volunteer organization, they own their own building. I think that's why you have the fire departments listed individually on this document, because they're not municipally owned buildings.
So if you read the section, it says, subject to applicable FCC rules and orders. So if statute doesn't require that we provide it to non-municipal buildings, then I'm not authorized to say yes to that.
Yeah, gotcha, okay. Okay. Do you have any other comments or questions? Oh, do I, I'm sorry. So do we, are you okay moving forward, or do you still want to get some more questions answered, Peg? I mean,
The only other thing that I was curious about, was there any way of just issuing a 5-year contract with a 5-year renewal if in fact they have finished upgrading all of Vernon? And that's probably a Josh.
I don't believe you can do that, Peg. It's the renewal period set by the state statute.
Okay.
By the
Just-
VP.
I'm sorry, can you speak up? That it was established by the
It's
state
set by
statute?
the state statute and by the Board of Public Utilities.
Okay,
Are we,
that's it then for me.
are we ready to vote then? Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, can I have a roll call vote?
We need a motion to adopt.
Oh, I'm sorry, may I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2305?
Moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Was that Councilmember Sparta?
Sparta, yeah, Councilmember Sparta was first.
Okay,
Sparta was second. Yep. Okay, may I have a roll call vote?
yes. Councilmember DeStacy,
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto,
Yes.
Councilmember Sparta,
Yes.
Chadwick,
Yes.
Council President Bushy.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Thank you, Marilyn.
You're welcome. And again, we'll respond to you on the other questions. And secondly, anytime you want me to come before mayor and council, I'm happy to come, preferably via Zoom, but if I have to drive to Vernon, I'm happy to drive to Vernon as well.
Okay.
And I'll keep you apprised of when we have, when the fiber to the home project, before we come into the town, we meet with the staff, business administrator, the police department, maybe engineering, to apprise them of the project. So when we come in, the Borough Hall staff will know in advance.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your time.
Welcome. Thank you.
All right. Have a good night. We are having a second reading for ordinance 2307, an ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, and State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 509 taxation of the Township Code to establish Article 3, 100% disabled veteran tax refunds. May I have a motion to open?
Did we miss one?
2306.
Oh, 6.
Did I miss one? What?
2306.
I apologize. Okay. 2306, you're right. Ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 5, Article 10, entitled Department of Public Works, to create the position of Assistant Director of Public Works and Director of Automotive Services. May I have a motion to open the public hearing to ordinance 2306?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Tadrick, seconded by Ms. DeStacy. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay. Is there anyone in the public? You already asked your question, Mr. Knight, so we do have it. I have it. I did make it. You don't have to repeat. I did make a note. I knew it was coming up. Does anyone want to comment on this ordinance in the public? Virtually via Zoom?
Yes, I'm sorry, Thomas McClackery.
Okay. Mr. McClaffery?
Yeah, good evening. Pursuant to the 2020 census, we're still down about 1,700 in population. We don't have any new roads. So the question is, why are we creating new positions? And I don't think we should be. That's my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McClaffery. Is there anyone else from the public with a comment?
I don't see any other hands up.
Okay.
I'm
Can I-
sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Ms. Palladini?
Ms. Palladini?
Just clarification, this is on the ordinance, right?
This is on ordinance 2306. Yes.
Okay, no comment, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No?
Don't have any other hands up.
May I have a motion to close the floor to public comment?
Move it. Second.
Okay, moved by Tadrick and seconded by Mr. Sparta. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No? Okay. All right. Questions. So there's been a couple questions about this, and we've talked about this a couple of times, but Danelle can explain it again.
Sure.
Thank you.
So these are for two positions. We are directed, I should say, by civil service, as well as obviously our union contracts. These positions are outside of our union contracts. Civil service dictates what the duties and titles are for our positions. These two positions have always historically functioned, I should say the two prior names of the position, supervising mechanic and one of the assistant supervisors have always functioned in the positions of Director of Automotive Services and Assistant Director of Public Works in accordance with civil services duties as outlined. So I don't know why, but the township, when they created those original positions for those two individuals, it should have been given the correct titles. They were not given the correct titles. I don't know if that.
So we're not creating two new positions. We're renaming
Correct.
two positions we have currently. And there's two people holding those positions, and they'll continue to hold those positions.
Yes, and one of those positions, I will say, did do a desk audit. So we are required by civil service to have that one.
Okay.
The other one, like, could do the same thing. We're just trying to make.
What does the desk audit mean?
Desk audit means you can go through civil service and it's a process where you write down everything anyone that.
Oh, they audit everything you do?
Yes, they basically audit all the duties that you're
responsibilities.
responsible for, all the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, and then they can issue a ruling on what position should be.
Yeah, okay. So we're not hiring new people.
There's no plan at this time.
Right, but
And there's no additional cost.
is there any additional cost? No,
For these,
for these individuals. No. Their salaries remain the same.
So,
I mean, there's budget items. I don't want to say that they're entitled, they're not changing when the budget is passed, but there's no plans for increases because these titles are changing.
Okay, that's a good, thank you.
Yes.
Do we abolish the old titles?
So the one. I don't know if there's a process to abolish old titles. But there's no supervising mechanic, and you can't abolish the title of assistant supervisor because we have other assistant supervisors that are actually assistant
Beyond that.
supervisors.
In other departments, I mean.
Yes, in other, departments in the Department of Public Works, correct?
so two questions.
Okay.
Are one or both of them going to be backfilled?
So
You don't know yet.
I am not aware at this time whether those will be back.
Good answer. I like that. It's going to law school. And the other question is, this 2306 is connected to 2308, correct?
Correct.
So does that mean these people will be receiving additional bonus, not bonuses, but additional pay grade because they're in a different range? Okay. Now they might for future promotion, but I mean, right now it's lateral. Okay.
So really 2308 is where you just
Budgeted for any
title.
increases for that.
Thanks.
You just changed the title on 2308 to coincide with 2306.
We had to.
Got to carry it forward.
Public Works, if there's an assistant, there are assistant supervisors.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Well, question? Okay, may I have a motion?
Move it.
Move. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Sparta. Mr. Tadrick, got that?
Thank you.
Have a roll call vote?
Councilmember DeStassi,
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto,
Yes,
Councilmember Sparta,
Yes.
Councilmember Patrick,
Yes.
Council President Lucieri.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the public hearing for ordinance 2307, an ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, and State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 509 taxation of the Township Code to establish Article 3, 100 disabled veteran tax refunds. May I have a motion to open the public hearing for ordinance 2307?
Move it.
Moved by Mr. Tadrick, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sparta. All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, anyone in the public? Anyone virtually?
Yes, Mr. McClackery,
Mr. McClackery?
Good evening. I'm sorry, I'm laughing at the pronounce of the name.
What's the correct I'm sorry, what's the correct
No,
pronunciation?
no, I'm used to it. I got used to it in third grade. And so
I just want to say that when I look at you on here, it
Yeah.
says Ochams too.
Razor.
Yeah, so give me some
Occam's
credit. I don't
razor.
even have it in front of me.
yeah, it's Occam's razor.
Okay.
It's just a little piece of philosophy. But anyway, what I'd like to say about this is, and your lawyer has already commented on this, and he made that comment during the marijuana discussion. But essentially what this is doing is going to give veterans, and I still stand by my previous comments on it, but what it's doing is giving veterans more payout. So it's going to go back 4 quarters or a year from when he makes he or she makes their initial application. My question is, and your CFO probably has this number, all the people that already are disabled veterans, are you going to repay them back that year's money? And the CFO has probably got it right there, and she can give you an update of how much that's going to cost you. So if you enact this regulation, and those people that already are disabled and getting a tax break, are they entitled to a year of back taxes? That's basically my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public?
I don't have any other hands up.
I have a motion to close the floor to public comment.
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Tadrick, seconded by Mr. Sparta. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. May I have a motion for ordinance 2307?
Move it.
Moved by Mr. Tadrick. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sparta. Any questions or comments? I think I did ask you a question about this, Danelle. Maybe you could explain it quickly. Was this just, this is,
Actual,
well, this ordinance is so you have a policy and a procedure to do this. So this isn't about retro payments to disabled veterans
no, it's to ensure that we have a policy in place.
and how to handle this going forward.
Yes,
Okay.
a very outlined specific policy.
A specific policy. So when there is a veteran in our town who has been deemed by, I guess, Veterans Affairs that they are disabled to whatever degree, there's a policy now in place on how they apply for a reduction of their taxes. Does
Yes,
that make sense? Anybody else have a question?
Only 100%.
Oh, it's only 100%? Okay, I didn't realize that. So 100%. No questions? We're good? Okay, may I have roll call vote?
Councilmember DeStacy,
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto,
Yes.
Councilmember Sparta,
Yes.
Councilmember Tadrick,
Yes.
Council President Bushieri.
Yeah.
Motion carries.
Okay, ordinance 2308, ordinance amending the salaries for certain officers and employees of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey. May I have a motion to open the floor to public hearing for ordinance 2308?
Move it.
Moved by Mr. Tadrick, second by Ms. DeStacy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the floor is open. Is there anyone in the public in person or virtually who would like to comment on ordinance 2308? No, I have Mr. McClatchy. Okay, Mr. McClatchy, tell me.
Hey, most people just call me Mac. All right, so on the previous ordinance for the DPW, where you changed the titles, you got a very cloudy opinion or explanation from your CFO. Basically, in civil service, when you change your title, the pay grade is going to shift from one to the other, but it can never be lowered and they'll never match up. So you just gave them a raise in the first renaming of those titles, whether they were already there or not. You change the title in civil service, the pay grade changes too. And they have to advance a step. They're going to get a pay raise out of that. Now, you're going to give them another pay raise. And I just want to make that clear. A lot of what the CFO is telling you about civil service, and I've dealt with it on and off for over 30 years, is incorrect. And that's it. Have a good night.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public?
I have Ann Larson.
Ann Larson?
Yes, thank you. In furtherance to what Mr. McClatchy just mentioned, I have to say, I find the vagueness of the ordinances when they're proposed really troublesome. You know, when you read it the first time, everyone who read it thought that we were creating 2 new positions. I don't know why they can't be like buttoned down where it actually says creating new positions, but really not hiring new people. I feel like these things always come back and bite us in the behind down the road because they're never effectively explained the first time. It would be so much easier to be precise in what you're saying in the ordinance. If we're not creating 2 new jobs, say it in the ordinance, just say it outright. There will not be 2 new jobs. I don't know why there's always all this ambiguity. And I would like to ask whoever is responsible to please take a look at it more carefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public?
Yes, Jessica Palladini.
Ms. Palladini?
Yes, hi. I just want to say that being a word master, it's very important to me to pronounce people's names correctly. Tom's name is really very easy. It's McClackry, like C-L-A-C-K, McClackry. Having said that, I want to say that I agree 100% with Tom McClackry. I don't know why, and this has nothing to do with the DPW. I think we have the greatest DPW in the whole world. But I don't know why the CFO told you what she did, because we are a civil service town, and any changes of titles and whatever often come with changes in salaries. So you are either being given misinformation, or you are much too trusting, or you're not researching these things yourself, but the public is just not getting the right information. So I agree 100% with Tom. And Tom, by the way, was a civil service employee for decades. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
I don't see any other hands up.
Okay, may I have a motion to close the floor to public comment?
Move it. Second.
Moved by Mr.
Move.
Kendrick, seconded by Mr. Sparta. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, may I have a motion for 2308?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Sparta, second by Mr. Patrick. Anyone have any questions or comments? Ordinance? No? All right, may I have a roll call vote?
Councilmember DeStaffy?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Sparta?
Yes.
Councilmember Tadrick?
Yes.
Council President Bushieri?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. And now, we'll go to the mayor's comments.
Thank you so very much, Council President Perry. I only have one comment for tonight. As I have repeatedly said, our town is a great place. I think not only to live and raise a family, but also a great place to visit. This point of view is repeatedly shared by a host of residents and non-residents on various social media platforms. And earlier this month, Thrill List, the media giant that is the go-to source for many who are looking for advice and recommendations on locations for good food, good drink, and travel and entertainment, joined in with the chorus of us who are singing Vernon's praises. In a March 6th post on their website, which has almost 6 million followers, Thrill List listed Vernon as one of the, quote, 8 small towns in Jersey that are perfect for an easy getaway from New York City. This post cited the presence of Mountain Creek and its winter and summer amenities. It cited our walking and biking trails that lead to panoramic views. And by the way, walking and biking trails have become major draws for visitors to small towns all over America. It cited the Daily Bean, the Crystal Cafe, and the newly renovated Glenwood Restaurant as unique local eateries. And it cited the Highlands Flowers gift shop, plus the metaphysical shop, Crystal Quartz, as places to purchase one-of-a-kind and unique gifts in Vernon Township. We live in a great town, and one of my objectives as mayor is to do everything that I can to make it an even greater town and to tell the world about it every chance that I get. During these 3+ years that I have served as the town's mayor, all of my comments and all of my actions have been aimed at achieving this objective. That ends my formal comments for tonight. Thank you.
I'll have council comments.
No, you got a public, you got
You have to do public yet.
yeah, you skip public.
I skip public comment? Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry.
And then
Thanks.
for the order.
I apologize, public. Okay. Public comment. May I have a motion to open the floor to public comment?
Moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Sparta, second by Mr. Patrick. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public comments. Anyone in person?
May I?
Go ahead. I apologize about that. There was just so much public comment. I thought,
Thought you didn't want to hear from me.
no, that's not the case at all.
Hello again, Peter Knight. And I really like to commend the council for having a very active discussion, if not a debate, concerning the spending of money for the track. I applaud that, and I think this should be something that is consistent. I hope so in the future. I've been told by many people that government runs very differently than corporations or any kind of business. And my comeback to that is no, not really. You think of it in terms of ethics, and good business practices, there's very little any difference. The idea to go ahead with a project without properly reviewing it, discussing it, it's foolhardy. There are costs associated to any project. The trail, based on pictures that I've seen, is a dismal example of poor planning, engineering. In fact, I don't believe any engineering or thought to engineering was ever considered with that. One of the things about business is that a business person needs to know what they know and what they don't know. So in a construction of a contract, you have to understand what you don't know. So when this contract was formed, it should have been reviewed by an engineer, somebody with knowledge of engineering. I forget which council member brought this up. Oh, I think it was Ms. Stasi. I saw no evidence of piping to move water away from the trail. In my estimate, just based on visualization, this was a total failure. Paving cannot be done without significant cost to grading and preparing the soil. You just don't lay asphalt down on something that hasn't been prepared. So this is going to cost a substantial amount of money. I think much more than the 25% that we can come up with to meet that goal. In terms of the other issue that I brought up about the change of titles for employees, I'm a little bit disappointed on that. In business, I'll reflect on what happens in business. You don't change titles without rewarding some type of bump. Not in my history have I ever seen that done. I have family in civil service. When their titles have changed, they got a bump. So the idea that I specifically asked, no doubt about it, whether this was going to incur additional money. It didn't necessarily mean today or tomorrow. I would have been satisfied with an honest and straightforward answer. No, it may not be reflected now, but next contract or whatever, yes, there would be. Our civil servants are the heart of our government, and I'm all for, taking care of them. They deserve that respect and they earn it. So, but I was a little bit disappointed with that. So I would just say, moving forward as an individual, I hope the council continues what I saw tonight. Kudos. A healthy discussion it doesn't have to, not everybody has to be happy with the decision, but it's comforting to know that people actually put thought behind it. Not everybody agrees all the time, but it's good to turn over the stones and see what's underneath. Again, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the public? Come forward. State your name.
Hello, everyone. I'm Robert Boyle. I'm the owner of Planet Networks, CEO. Thank you for the clarification and I had a nice chat with the chief outside, and I think that one obstacle is now, good. We've gotten great clarification on that. We had some
Good.
previous confusing interactions, but that was great. So not with the chief, with other people in the department. So that's one issue that's, was, an obstacle to building out fiber in Vernon. The other obstacle is that you have two phone companies here, as you guys are aware, Brightspeed / formerly known as CenturyLink, Embark, Sprint, United Telephone, whatever. And the other is Warwick Valley Telephone. So Warwick Valley Telephone is an incumbent, meaning that they are prior to competitors being created. They have their own little service territory, and part of that is in Vernon. Part of it is obviously in New York State as well. But they have a obligation legally under the FCC and also under the Board of Public Utilities to share access to their utility poles. They are refusing to do that, and they just say, no, those rules don't apply to us. And so, and they're wrong, but the resolution process through the BPU, we make a formal complaint to the BPU. It's going to take 6 months for them to hear it. And then they're probably going to kick it up to the FCC, and then the FCC will then kick it back to the BPU. So it's like a 1.5-year process probably. And that's what my telecom attorneys have told me, guys who pay a lot of money to know these kinds of things. And so one of the things that I would ask, and if we can, we don't need to do anything tonight, but we would ask that in the interest of competition, this is not favoring Planet Networks over any other provider. I mean, you guys just renewed the franchise, as you should, for cable company. I mean, more choices is always better. Want more people to be able to, and I can guarantee when we start building here, service levels of every other provider will go up because they know they need to. So that's what happened. That's what's happening everywhere we've built. They've started building on roads they haven't. They upgrade their plant. They fix things. They lower prices. I mean, it's just, that's what happens. So, but one of the things that, so we can immediately start building in Brightspeed territories today. Like so with the resolution with the police, which is great. But my attorney's prepared like a little model resolution for. And if you guys can look at this and review it and talk amongst yourselves or whatever with it, with your attorney, basically all it says is like, hey, we need more choices. We want more choices, and Warwick Valley, please execute a poll agreement. And, and basically it's a really simple little thing. And if you guys can take a look at this and consider doing something with it, that would be great. And again, it's not particularly saying, you're choosing us or anything. It's just, we're one of many choices, and you want more choices in town for the residents of Vernon. So
You can email that to the clerk and.
sure, absolutely. Yep, I'm happy to do that. And I just wanted to let you guys know that, and thank you very much for having facilitating this interaction. I think it's great. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But
Natalie, can I ask a question or no?
Go ahead.
With this clarification now, does that change your time frame for coming into Vernon?
oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So we in our budget, we had like a $5 or $6 million line item for Vernon, but it was kind of like on hold indefinitely. But now we can at least take the Brightspeed parts of that and start doing that. There's only, Warwick Valley, I think, is only about a third of the thing. You guys probably know better than I do, but it looks like it's about a third of the residents. Maybe. So, but the other ones we can
go
down immediately. So
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming. Any other members of the public? Parkin?
My name's Sean Clarkin. A little overwhelmed because I'm not going to talk about everything that I want to talk about because we'll be here all night. I recently went to the economic development meeting last Tuesday, and I sat in the audience and held my tongue the best I could. And then the very next night, the Economic Development Committee, they were interviewing somebody to come in and do an analysis to give us a plan to move forward. And it was another study. They were looking, and I'm sure they're going to come to you and present it. The very next night, I went to the Land Use Board and I sat and I walked in a little bit late. I was definitely late. It appeared to me as if they were writing recommendations for the town council to restrict the use of farmland. So on Tuesday night, we've got good-hearted Vernon citizens working hard as volunteers, trying to figure out how to develop industry in Vernon to lower our taxes and to bring more industry into the town. Then the very next night, I've got the land use board trying to pass recommendations to you guys to limit what we can do with farmland. And these are all good citizens. And 2 nights in a row, I see people wasting their time because of a lack of direction and supervision. This is the same lack of supervision that occurs when we have a track a trail that gets built in a half-assed manner. It's just more of the same. This evening, we had a comment that the work that the MUA was going to do was, and the users were going to get billed. They were going to pay for this. They were going to pay for the new MUA installation, the water lines, the sewer lines. The users were going to pay for it. I don't know what users they're talking about. And you need to be very, very careful that you know what users they're talking about, because the users I know are screaming bloody murder because their rates are too high. Okay? So you're going to charge those people in the condos, you're going to charge them for this? Is that what the users you're talking about? Or are you talking about the bears and the squirrels on the land where you're going to run the pipes and the water lines to? Because I don't know where you're getting the toilet bowls from or the shower stalls to generate the wastewater.
I think it was new users. So once we had
Where are they coming from?
funds, and Ms. Bright can probably speak to that, but the funds that we received then work towards expanding sewer lines, and then those new users that hook up would be the ones paying that. Is that correct, Ms.?
Correct.
So I just wanted to answer your question real quick.
Thank you very much, but I just wanted to count every toilet bowl there is in the town center. Count every shower there is in the Vernon Town Center. There are not enough toilet bowls and showers to cover that expense. Existing that go into septics. So you're going to shut off the septic in the town center and you're going to force somebody to hook up to the MUA. If you got every single toilet and every shower in the MUA forced to hook up to the MUA, you're not going to be able to cover the bills. You need to expand or you need to not expand. And running pipes and sewer lines to houses, if you're not increasing the volume of users, the people of the town center, it's not enough to cover the expense. And you need to realize that before we go further into debt. You need to realize the MUA, I hope they work, but we need a plan to develop and create more toilet.
I think Mr. Nell can probably answer that, or at least speak quickly to that.
Right. So the whole idea is that the MUA and the township is very well aware that we need additional users. I mean, our allocation is 645,000 gallons. We use about 210,000 gallons.
So where are you going
We
to get it
need
from?
additional users. So they're existing, we have an existing sewer service area right now where there are properties that are not connected because of the location of the existing mains. So we have one, do you mind just turning that off? I'm sorry.
Oh, I didn't even know it was on.
So the idea is to expand to the areas that can't currently connect that are in the existing sewer service area. And then the MUA and the township have worked together to come up with an updated expanded sewer service area. They've been working with the DEP for like 8 years.
Okay.
So we've come to an agreement with the DEP. We've put that forward to the DEP. There's a little bit of a process to get those expanded areas approved. And then that adds additional users as well.
How many?
A lot.
How many?
I would have to get you, so I would have to
You
get you
need
the
to-
exact,
you need-
the exact numbers. But I
Okay.
would get the exact numbers. But there
Okay.
are things to think about. It's not. A residential home could be a certain number of EDUs versus a restaurant. There are certain things that could be developed where you could have one piece of property that could bring in 50 EDUs. You could have another piece of property next to it that's a single family home with 3 bedrooms, and that could be 1 EDU.
But you need
So
to
it depends on the type of
industry or business. Correct.
that's in specific
Okay.
zoned areas for
Right.
town center.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, the taxpayers of Vernon and condo users are going to run pipes to undeveloped properties where there is no structure. There is no structure. No?
No. So there are certain areas that are developed in town center that are functioning on septics. The whole left-hand side of Route 94,
All
when
right.
you're going down
So
94 is,
let's do this. Between now and the next meeting, can you tell me how many toilet bowls and showers there are in the town center?
Maybe.
Tell you how-
Tell you EDU.
Know why it's necessary.
Maybe you can take it offline and she,
Yeah, because
she can answer your question.
being told
Answer your question. Yeah, I mean,
what you're
I'm sure
looking,
Ms. Wright would be happy to answer, some other questions. I don't know if she'll be able to answer every toilet bowl, but she might be able to show you a map.
you're telling me that
Yes.
there's a need for us to spend millions of dollars to run new sewer and water lines. There's a need. That's what I'm hearing.
Yep, and I'm sure she'll be able, yeah.
Show the taxpayers of Vernon where this need is. That's all we're asking.
Your email, I'm sure she can send you some information.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the public? In person?
Good evening. My name is Jack DeGroot. I am not from Vernon. I love Vernon though. I'm from Wantage and I'm running for Sussex County Commissioner. And if it's okay with you guys, I'd love to just take a few minutes to introduce myself.
Public comment, any topic. So.
Sensational. I love it. Love it. Well, as I mentioned, my name is Jack DeGroot. I'm a 24-year-old farmer and current grad student from the great township of Wantage. And I love Sussex County. Sussex County is my home, but it's also all of our homes, right? And I've lived here my whole life. And the only time I haven't lived here was in pursuit of my higher education. I attended Marywood University and graduated in 2021 after playing 4 years of basketball and graduated with a bachelor's degree in mathematics and finance. I then continued on to graduate school at the University of New Hampshire, where I'm finishing up my master's in statistics degree. I am a teaching assistant there, and I'm also a current intern for the office of New Hampshire Governor Christopher T. Sununu. That's a fabulous experience, and we could talk about that later. But anyway, as I mentioned, I love Sussex County, and I lived here all of my life. Growing up, I grew up on my family's dairy farm, and I watched my father work every single day, 18 years straight, no days off. No matter the weather, snow, summer, 90 degrees out, he was working. He made a commitment to milking those cows twice a day. And I saw that, and that instilled a work ethic in me that, and no matter what task I do, working for the governor, being a student, being a TA, I make sure I have a level of commitment to excellence in whatever I do. And the great thing is I'm back on the farm and I'm working with him, waking up at 5 a.m. and going, back home probably around 8 in the summer. But speaking of, I use that in my own endeavor of produce farming on my farm. The most wonderful thing about my produce stand is I have the pleasure of meeting all different types of residents from all different types of municipalities, Hopatcong, Byram, Vernon, I go on. But I meet these people at my produce stand and I hear the joys and concerns that they bring, about the county. Concerns such as affordability, increased taxes, warehouses, national parks, you name it, I've heard it. And really, I feel compelled to make a change, be a beacon of hope for a younger generation, my generation, a generation that's influenced by social media and you name it, just influenced everywhere. And a lot of people say we're lost. And, I want to change that narrative. I really just want to be a representation of the younger generation in government and politics and really show that it's okay to engage in government. It's a true, honor to, be elected. And, that's what, I'm planning to do. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I hope that the great township of Vernon supports me in my endeavor. And, thank you very, very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wish you well.
Thank you.
Good luck. Is there anyone else in the public like to come forward?
So I really wasn't going to speak to this tonight, but I was listening in and took my mind. So anyway, this ad hoc committee that's being discussed, I think it's safe to assume that whoever brought it forward is probably not happy with the current form of government. Otherwise, why would we make that, move to try to discuss it. But that being said, I'm getting concerned for the process. I'm not hearing about a process. The list says 1 or 2 council members. So how and when is that decided? Then there's 2 members of the public. We had 4 applications. Now we have a decision to cast the net again. And I hate to assume, does that mean we're not happy with the 4 that came in if we only need to pick 2 out of those 4? The comment about, people running or people in government or involved. Well, you're going to want to have people on board that have an understanding and an interest in this particular subject. And if they have an interest, they might know a few things about the different forms. I happen to know a little bit myself. Some of you may know that I was very involved in changing the form of government because we thought we needed a change. We had manager after manager that was not serving our town well. And we thought that perhaps we needed the elected mayor, someone devoted and committed within the community, rather than managers that come from afar, spend 1.5 years, and then they leave. But anyway, so we've had this form now for a couple of terms. And if you have your pulse on the community out there, your finger on the pulse of the community will tell you that I'm hearing people are not interested in changing anything because they say that we already changed it. And if we're in search of the perfect government, well, that doesn't exist. It's only as good as the people who are elected. But I really, don't want to give too much of my own personal opinion. Maybe I'll save that for some of those meetings. So first and foremost, are they going to be advertised and open to the public when they occur? Because I want to know about the process.
I guess, if you have other questions, I can pause it.
But if you don't have.
Yeah, no, I don't know if,
These are things that I think.
I believe like any subcommittee are open to the public,
I would hope so and assume
so it
so.
would be the same.
I haven't heard it
process.
since, so.
Yeah, it would be the same process.
And, yeah. And the fact that there were 4 applicants, if there was a concern as to partisan politics, well, I'm familiar with all 4 that applied. 2 are Democrats and 2 are Republicans. I guess we could have had an unaffiliated thrown in the mix somewhere, but to me, that was probably a kind of an even mix. And so I'm curious as to why the net must be cast again. I know it was advertised and I saw it on the website myself, so. But I would like to hear more about the process, that's all. I'm not putting my name in. I probably know too much about it to partake and be a part of it, but I will be listening in and, yeah. Maybe the next time we'll have a process. And the 1 or 2 council decided if it's 1 or 2, that kind of thing, yeah. All right, thank you, good night.
Yeah. Is there anyone else in the public? Virtually, is there anyone virtual?
Yes, Mr. McClackery. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Yeah, good evening.
Thank you.
Again, I have a question about, we're approaching the Ides of March here. And I'm just wondering where the heck the town budget is and whether or not, and perhaps you should just post a draft on the website. Having said that, that's about all I have to say, but I have to agree with Sally Raker on the ad hoc committee. I've been in and out following town government for the last 37 years. I don't see, you're never gonna get a perfect government, as Sally said. You never will. They have a whole range of politicians over the last 4 decades. Some of them are capable and some of them are totally inept. Same goes for old town professionals. Some of them are just political flags. Other people are conscientious and will give you their opinions. And on that topic, Mr. Tadrick let the CFO slide on a lot of his questions. And I just have to say, her explanation, her explanation of the MUA situation was the most simplest, eye-opening, eye-popping thing I've heard in the last 2 decades of making comments on the MUA, various contracts between the township, Mountain Creek, the SCMUA, and to be as naive and confused as the CFO is about the MUA and its debt, it's rather amazing. On that note, have a good night.
Thank you.
Ann Larson?
Ms. Larson?
Yes, hi, thank you again. I have a couple of things I was going to touch upon, please. In reference to the MUA, I'll follow up on a couple of recent speakers. In reference to the MUA, I'm wondering where the next proposed section of victims, potential victims is going to be. Because, you know, as Mr. Clarkin mentioned, you know, you go all the way up 94. And are we going to count each of those houses and on the other side of the street and how many, you know, EDUs they'll produce? I think you should plan all this before they make a move. And if they aren't bringing sewers to the section that I think they are, I got to tell you, there's a lot of people replaced very expensive septics in that area. And that is really quite an imposition that they would have in the last 2-3 years spent $35,000 on septics to be told by the MUA, you're going to have to, you know, connect. This is more heavy-handed nonsense. I mean, I just don't see how you can just keep imposing this poison on the township and the expenses that go with it. So I beg you to please reconsider that. In reference to the paving of the path, I note the Appalachian Trail, the 1900-mile Appalachian Trail, at least the section through here, is not paved. So I don't know if you paved it, if you'd be responsible for shoveling it and, you know, making sure there's no slippery leaves on it. I mean, city sidewalks, which is what this is going to sound like, come with a lot of liability on townships and on property owners. Obviously, this wouldn't be property owners, but I feel like, you know, oh, now someone's going to slip or trip on sliding leaves and we're liable, and the DPW is going to be shoveling a path. This is craziness. If you wanted a path to walk a path in the woods, for Pete's sake, walk in the path on the woods. But I don't know why we need to throw more money at this thing. It's absurd. It's just an absurd trip to nowhere. So I really ask you to please contemplate before we spend any more money, even if part of it's coming from the county. We're still spending money that we don't need to spend on a ridiculous project. And with no totals, no numbers, no estimates, no nothing. This is craziness. As far as the earlier mentioned on was the $75,000 grant from the county. Once again, another poorly written or poorly orchestrated plan. We forgot to apply for the money. I just feel there are too many loose ends all the time that we're constantly going back and fixing things. We're going to go back and fix the rush through cannabis ordinance. We're going to go back and fix this. We're going to go back and fix the job descriptions, which were not. Nothing is ever clearly identified or effectively identified. So I ask whoever's responsible, I don't know, is this beyond their pay grade? I don't understand why it's so difficult and so challenging to just, you know, identify specifically what we're looking to fix, to address, to add to subtract from, whatever it is. So I thank you for your time and have a good evening.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public, Marcy?
Yes, Jessica Palladini.
Ms. Palladini?
Hi again. I want to say quickly that as usual, Peter Knight makes an excellent point. Transparency. That word is thrown around so much, but it's so lacking and it's so important. Just tell us what the pay increases will be for the DPW employees, and we'd be okay with it. We don't want to deny our employees what they deserve, but to state it in all different kinds of ways that lacks transparency is just really loathsome. I want to say that I would be remiss if I didn't mention, I forgot before, Matthew Conway was one of the individuals who put his name in for that ad hoc committee. and he would be an excellent, excellent member for that committee. So I'm sorry I forgot about Matthew. Now I'm going to sound like Steve Dunlop because I'm going to discuss something that the mayor said. You know, the term flim flam man comes to mind. Thank you for tabling that action on the money for paving the trail. Long range plans to pave the trail? Never. What resolution? What ordinance? What minutes ever said that? They were very clear on what that trail was going to be. And the word paving never came up anywhere. I want to see the resolution or the ordinance or the minutes that state that. Please hold true to your promise, not one more dime. You are being flim-flammed by being told, oh, it was always in the plan to pave that trail. Oh, we could take money from the hotel occupancy fund. We could take it from a line item. We could take it from here. We could take it from there. Please. That trail was a poor plan to begin with. It is a disaster. 2-3 months into it, it's already destroyed. I also want to know, what trust fund did you put $75,000 in for paving, and based on what resolution you did that? I even asked, so in fact, I didn't ask, I posted something on Inside Vernon where they were talking about putting the ADA compliant trail, and Harry Shortway and Mayor Burrell both corrected me at public meetings and said, the only thing we said would be ADA compliant was around the bicycle pump track. Now, all of a sudden, we're talking about the entire trail being ADA compliant. The story changes every meeting. I want to see the resolution, the ordinance. I want to see anything that ever discussed the paving of that trail. And if you agree to spending even more money, good money after bad, you are being flim-flammed by being told that it was always in the plan to pave that trail. It most certainly was not. The bid didn't say it. Nothing. There is no document that said that trail would be paved. Please hold true to your promise. And I just want to say one last thing. I think Councilwoman DeStasi hit upon something pretty accurate. When I read the resolution on the money from the county, it definitely says $100,000 from the state. Now, I've applied for a lot of grants in my lifetime, and I've gotten every one of them. And you can't just change a plan. You cannot just change a grant after you got it. I would like to be sure that we are not limited to that $100 from the state. I wish Councilwoman DeStasi went further, but I applaud her for catching that and for questioning that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other hands raised?
I don't see any other hands raised.
Okay. Anyone else from the pub? Sorry.
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Nicanorov?
Nick Honorov.
Nicanorov?
Thank you. I'll be brief. So I enjoyed tonight's council meeting and the debate. It was very informative, and I want to say thank you for debating the subject matters. Going back to the ad hoc committee, as mentioned, 22-286. One of the speakers tonight has said appropriately that nobody has the appetite to change the government. And I stand by my ground stating that this committee is, from a charter perspective, a waste on taxpayers' dollars. However, what I would like to make is a suggestion. Instead of looking at changing the government, maybe this ordinance and this committee should be tasked with improving the government, improving processes, improving procedures, and determining what is missing from our current government to make it more efficient. That, I think, would be a better use of the taxpayers' time. And if these individuals determine that there needs to be a change in the amendments or other items as appropriate that would lead to a change in the form of government, then that would be more appropriate use of the time. So I'd like to recommend, or suggest, I should say, that you should change the nature of this committee to talk about improving the government versus changing its form. That's all I have for tonight, and thank you for your time.
Are there any other hands raised, Marcy?
I don't have any hands raised right now.
I have a
Motion to close the.
motion made by Mr. Rizzuto. May I have a
Second.
second? Second by Mr. Sparta. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No? Okay. And now we will go to council comments. How about we start with Mr. Tadrick?
I wanted to,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nothing for me.
Nothing from you? Okay.
I wanted to thank Chief Young for his response to the advertiser. As always, it was very efficient and it clarified the situation. There are a lot of negative comments that are always being posted on social media. I would just like to advise that people do their research and check it out themselves. Don't take everything on social media as gospel, because many times it's unfounded. And it is an interpretation of an individual's point of view. It is not the facts of the council. As far as the budget process, I take it serious, as do my fellow council people. We're working hard on it. And I don't feel that we have ignored anything along the way. And I would suggest if anybody has any questions about any details, that they open it and get their answers themselves. I'm sure that that will be taken care of. I want to compliment the town clerk for having restored many of the minutes and agendas back onto the website so quickly. I think they've done a good job of addressing an awkward situation. Just say thank you for coming and careful driving home. Thank you.
Sparta?
I don't know if it's 8:59 or 9:59.
I know, right?
So I'll refrain from comments.
We appreciate it.
No comment.
And I will follow suit and refrain so we can go home before the snow. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sparta. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, be careful, everybody driving.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.